I've seen a drink. Now I know exactly where you guys live.
Oh shit.
We'll
That sounds like a threat.
Exactly, I mean the area.
That sounds like a threat.
Yeah.
Where?
He knows exactly where we live, Pompey. That's one thing I really loved about Juri's place, man. It's like when I moved to Japan, I got like super invested in living in the culture, living like on the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even my bed.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's like, that's it. And this is the highest I've slept in like years, man. So, I hope you're comfy.
I'm good. I never, just purely because of, like, my place was furnished when I moved into Akita. I had a raised bed. There were like 2 couches. Sofas, whatever people call them. There were 2 couches in my apartment. It had 3 bedrooms. It was huge.
What the fuck? That's nice.
Yeah. Because someone lived there for 5 years before me, the previous teacher. But it was like raised, but it's Japanese raised, so it's like this high.
But you know what makes that nice, and the problem I'm having now, is when I have like 10 minutes, just 10 minutes to sit down, and then I'm going to go do something, or I'm waiting for Miku to get ready. Yeah. I don't want to bend down this far.
No, I agree.
Just to get back up.
Yeah.
It's a thing I never thought I'd miss.
I'm not a fan of the ground.
No, I hate it.
I can't do it.
We're 2 big lads, man.
Yeah, we talked about it before, bro. It's too low.
Yeah, especially after coming back from rugby.
Yeah. And I sometimes wonder if, like, is it just because we've grown up with not kind of bending and doing all these things? Because Japanese people are so flexible. And it must be a lifestyle thing, but it's also a size thing, you know?
I'll never forget when I first arrived here in Osaka, and you're by the station, then you'd see the girls waiting for the train, just sitting like how Miku was sitting earlier. I couldn't believe it.
It's a thing all throughout Asia.
It's a weird thing, man, like the Asian squat,
Yeah.
And I can kind of do it, and when I do it, like Japanese kids always kind of used to be impressed. But then standing up, my knees don't feel like the way they should be anymore, man. This is, Peter Steff, the toys brand.
Yeah, you were saying.
Come by, sir. Thank you for doing this with me. We didn't quite do the 10,000 steps, but, nonetheless. I actually decided to call it 10,000 steps because I didn't know. I mean, there's a lot of research and stuff now. Of course, 10,000 steps is, like, for your health-wise, very beneficial and stuff. Yeah. But it's actually started as a marketing campaign in Japan. In the 1960s, right before Tokyo 1964 Olympics. In 1963, there was he was a doctor, Oya-san. He was a part of one of the top clinics in Japan, in Tokyo. And he kind of brought research that he was saying he was really concerned about the inactivity of the people in Japan during that time. So they made like a pedometer that measures 10,000 steps that they're walking. Yeah, so in 1965 there was a huge marketing campaign about it, and that led to the research afterwards. It's like, okay, is 10,000 steps actually beneficial and healthy and all that?
From here, because it's funny, I don't know if I hear people here talking about it that much.
I don't, but I hear every foreigner I've met here. If I say 10,000 steps, they're like, whew.
It's a big thing. I thought it came with the smartwatches, you know?
No, I don't think so. Well, perhaps now. But like I said, it started off with the thing. I forgot the thing's name, but they designed it and everything, and then it became widespread across all of Japan. So that's why it's 10,000 steps. Welcome. We're here with Liam anyway. One of my closest friends here. And it's just right and befitting that for the first episode of 10,000 Steps, we didn't actually walk anything.
No, we didn't manage it. We walked in the meeting, so.
That's fair. We're about 102 steps from my house. Yeah. But I mean, we were actually going to start this a while ago. And then after rugby. Yeah.
It took a while, didn't it?
I mean, to be fair, mate. And I'm not just tooting our horns here. But that was the first time in a while that I left everything I had in the tank. On the field.
It was good, huh?
It was good. It was good. We won a trophy for the crew, the mighty crew in Tokyo.
We snapped a little losing streak.
Yeah, we did. I was like, 3-4 games losing?
Too many.
3-4 too many. We only play 5 a season.
Way fucking too many, huh?
Yeah, man. So when I woke up that day, I really wanted to do it, and I had this vibe that, okay, we're going to do the first podcast because we're going to be kind of hungover and hurting and do the 10,000 steps, have a mini celebration. I woke up feeling like I was in a fucking coma.
Yeah, man, I couldn't move.
Yeah, I was done.
I couldn't move. No, but there's this good feeling, right? I think we talked about it. When you've played a full game. You know you've played a good game if you wake up the next day and there's this soreness. okay, I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was, but that's just aging. Huh?
Let's hope not, mate. I think we're both still in our prime.
Once upon a time, it didn't hurt that much. Yeah, it's different to an injury or something, where it's inconvenient. It's like, oh, I could do something, but everything's just kind of. It's like a warm soreness.
It is. It's more like a psychological thing, though.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of the few days where I literally, my lower back, I cannot even get up. We were just complaining about sitting on the floor all the time. But even after rugby, it's especially hard.
Yeah.
But somehow, I would be kind of worried if I wasn't in pain. So it's like a psychological mini victory of shit, we did it.
Well, because if you get up the next day and you feel good, that means you did nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I remember back in the day, Nas Botha.
yeah,
one of the legendary 10s of all time. It was kind of funny that South Africa played rugby in the way that the 10 never has to tackle.
Yeah.
So they're always playing the dirt and muddy stuff.
Yeah,
so you saying that it would be concerned if you feel like nothing. After a game, everybody's full of mud and his pants are white.
Yeah, I mean, I think a few people would have said the same about Craig Cooper back in the day. He was trying to tackle.
He wasn't quite like what's Owen? Is it Owen Farrell?
Owen Farrell.
Yeah, with the shoulders though.
Yeah, but he can tackle. He's a rugby league boy.
Bro, that would even be yellow in rugby league.
It would now. Not when he was younger though. Definitely not.
Did he actually play league?
I'm not sure if his father did.
Oh, his dad was a league player.
His
Yeah.
dad captained them. Captain England, well then Great Britain rugby league team before he switched to rugby.
So when you say captain, then one thing I haven't really understood about league is you guys play England, and is there like a league World Cup?
Yeah, there is.
There is.
Yeah, there is. I mean, only 3 countries have won it, but it's not that different from rugby. To be fair, it's only one more. Yeah, but there's a World Cup. It's it's only going to be Australia, New Zealand, or England that win it. They used to play as Great Britain, and they were better. But now it's England, and to be honest, England haven't been a force for a long time. It's been shared between Australia and New Zealand. Mostly. Look, I think we've won like 8 of 11 of them. Australia. So,
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
It's basically we just win it all the time.
And then the other ones go to New Zealand, and
New Zealand have won the others, and then
so just 2 countries have won.
I think back maybe Great Britain won some early ones.
Okay.
Yeah, they used to do this thing which was a lot bigger. Australia and Great Britain used to be a big rivalry, and they were called kangaroo tours. And they used to do this, and it was insane. They played like 30 games
in one tour.
Yeah.
Jeez,
I'm serious.
can you
I'm
imagine
serious.
how their bodies must feel?
I'm serious, yeah. And the last kangaroo tour was in the 90s. And it was always in England. They never toured us, but it's just how it was. They used to have a lot more teams that were of like a high level, like club teams. And what killed it was their league started dying off, and the Australian league kind of went away. And I think there were 3 tours in a row where we might not have lost a game. And that kind of killed it.
And that's what 30 games.
Yeah.
Like 60 games without losing shit.
Yeah, but you got to remember, so they're probably playing 8 professional teams that are decent, but then the best guys aren't playing for those club teams because
they're in the
training
international
for Great
teams.
Britain. Yeah, and then they might go play some second div, some local teams. They would take like 50 players.
15? 50? Shit, man,
Something like that, 40, maybe not 50, but it's like 30 to 40.
Yeah, that's not a
They
good
took a
squad.
huge group. And they'd also often go to France as well. Rugby league's big in the south of France. They're just not, again, rugby union's taken over. And that's the big difference.
That's just weird to me, man. Like, this is a sport that, coming from a rugby-loving nation, I've never heard anything about. Right now on my Facebook, I see we have a team, South African Rhinos or something. I think they're trying to make it on the global scale, but I never knew rugby league was a thing until I moved here.
Yeah.
And I met some Aussie lads and New Zealand lads.
They'd be starting from zero in South Africa for sure. For sure.
Yeah, but ironically, one of my friends, he lives in China. Yuan, shout out. Well, I don't know if I'm not supposed to mention your name, but anyway. So he's been in China for 6-7 years now. I'll need to check with him. But he was telling me he used to play league in South Africa, and we come from the same college. But he was saying, like, and I'm imagining this is the case for all league boys, is that the training was like, bro, you rock up there, and it's a 7-kilometer jog before you start training.
There's a lot of fitness.
It's a lot of fitness, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fitness. I just started running 5 kilometers a day starting last week. Bro, after 3 or 4 days, my legs are like seizing up. It's crazy, man.
I mean, one of the things I've learned this year, from because I watched I watched rugby all my life, but I watched both, and because I've been playing just rugby here, I've been watching a lot more of it, been listening to a lot more media about it, and it is kind of interesting to me when they talk when I hear rugby guys talking about their impressions of league converts, like guys that have come over from rugby league. That's really interesting to me because you used to hear more about it in Australia the other way, but because the NRL is so big, they don't even talk about it. It's like how the NFL wouldn't talk about a foreign sport.
Okay.
The NRL is
the only thing that matters.
The NRL is now like that. They won't even mention it. It's like, you know. So it's interesting listening to some of the old Aussie guys. Like I saw an interview with Matt. So Matt Giddo, Drew Mitchell, and Adam Ashley Cooper talking about guys like Lottie Takiri, Andrew Walker, Wendell Saylor, these guys that came over, Brad Thorne, and saying like they were the fittest people, and when they switched to playing for the Wallabies, they were immediately the fittest guys.
You have to be.
I didn't realise that, and I think what I've learned is that rugby, its professionalism, actual professionalism, is still relatively new. I think rugby league in Australia did it earlier. Okay, they only went full time in like the late 80s, early 90s, but the way they trained was, I think, more professional.
Which one got paid earlier to play? League got paid earlier, yeah.
That's where the split comes from.
Yeah, okay.
And it's cool.
Okay.
The split in the sport came from rugby union being an elitist thing, and it was an amateur sport.
Yeah, that's one thing you always mention to me, is that it's more like the rich kids' sports. Rugby back in Australia, yeah.
Rugby union is the rich sport. Well, it's very elitist.
It's weird, man. Like in South Africa, there's no dynamic like that. There's zero dynamic.
UK is the same.
Yeah, it's the same. There's zero dynamic. I can play with the poorest kid in the world. I can play with the richest kid in the world. It's all the same. Like there's just, I must say, man, for as much criticisms as I can give my home country, which is South Africa, if you haven't noticed by now, one thing that's great about them is that I confirmed this with Gibbo actually, is that most of the local governments, they invest funds into rugby.
Yeah.
So, for example, here we're playing for Crusaders, as I said, and I mean it's just an amateur club, and it's like what 15,000 yen to play for the year. I think.
Yeah, we pay 15,000 yen, it's like $150.
Yes, it's $150, so 2,000 rand about. So just to play, but in South Africa,
Australian dollars, but
yeah, there you go, Australian dollars. Yeah, there you go, Australian dollars. But in South Africa, there's none of that. There's like the communities invest in improving rugby. And I think it's shown, man. I think that's why we're on a global scale, kind of far ahead the rest of the world, if I can be so arrogant as to say that. So it's a part of that. It's generally become culture. And I think it's one thing that, I guess for us, we used it as a uniting factor as well. With the whole iconic Invictus. It wasn't Morgan Freeman, it was Nelson Mandela who received the trophy as well. So there's an element of peace and stuff around it, but league is nothing anybody I've ever met in my life has ever spoken about or considered it as an option.
Because I think, so the reason why it's not so popular, not as popular in the UK as in Australia. In the UK, what rugby league is in Australia is it's the working class sport in some states, right? But it's very much seen as one of the working class sports. It has that. The people that follow it are proud of that. In fact, that's why the divide still exists.
We're the rough boys.
Yeah, man, that's how it feels. You feel like the rugby guys look down on you. In Australia, they do.
Man,
they really do. And it's where you get worked up about it because their sports died, and then they still look down on us, and you kind of think, "Fuck you, man!" Like, obviously we're doing something correct, you know. But I think in the UK, right, it is classist in that way, where rugby's is a more elite sport, it's a more wealthy sport. Not necessarily, but it's mostly played in the south of England, which is more wealthy. But they have football, they have soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer is their working class sport.
Yeah.
Whereas rugby league only exists in these like
little posh areas.
Like, no, rugby league's in these like mining towns.
The mining towns, so even more working class, yeah.
But it's dying in England because soccer, football is there.
Yeah.
And that's the everyman sport. You know? And then it sounds like in South Africa, rugby's been able to transition to being like the nation's sport.
To our soccer, yeah. Basically.
Yeah, and that's why there's no room for a sport like rugby league to move in.
That's fair.
You know?
But I hope that changes, man, because I still think, don't get me wrong, like stuff like NFL and all that, and now like rugby league, it's good to be the best in the world. It must be a nice feeling. But if you're only the best because your country is primarily the one that plays it,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit contradictory, you know. So all these lads is playing rugby league who are actually fantastic athletes, bro.
Yeah.
I think probably even better athletes than normal rugby players in many circumstances.
Most of them probably are.
Probably are. And now they will never have that kind of satisfaction or that feeling. And I know you're going to come with the argument of what's the big derby game?
The state of origin. But there are...
Instead of orange.
I understand that, but you're not representing your country on a super global scale.
No.
Which is a shame, I think.
But it is the one drawback they have.
Mm.
But then, I think I actually feel the same way you do. I don't like that the international game is so small in rugby league.
Mm.
It's why I still follow rugby union, to be honest. It's the international game. The domestic stuff in Australia is trash.
Mm.
But I like watching the international game. However, the NRL is great every week.
Yeah, that's
It's just so
true.
much better.
It's more a quality thing.
And I think the best example is they want to be like the NFL.
Yeah, okay.
Everything is marketed the same way.
Mm.
They're behind on some stuff. The social media stuff and that is not great.
Mm.
But everything is marketed the same way. And it's
Mm.
all the TV deals are to do with Fox.
Mm.
The Fox Sports Australia, which is affiliated with Fox America. Rupert Murdoch owns both. And he changed the game a lot in the 90s.
Mm.
So he actually split the NRL in half, the Super League war. He came in and offered these players to form a breakaway league, offered them loads of money. He made the game far more professional than it already was. And that's where all the TV money came from. It's why there's so many professional teams. And it's because, what do? They're copying what the NFL have done.
If you think about it, it's a smart business model, no?
It is. But what you get is, I'm sure when I watch the NFL, I think, isn't this ridiculous that they call them, we don't do what they do. When the people who win, the team that wins the Super Bowl gets a ring that says World Champions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's his.
But exactly, that's my point. So world champions.
But we don't act like that.
Yeah,
it's not like
okay,
that.
I agree.
No one acts that way. Because we know it's only played in one place.
Yeah.
But yeah, but in 10, 15 years, I can see it being like America. Because that's the model. They want to make it conferences. They want to hit 20 teams. They've just said they're going to put a team in Papua New Guinea next year or two. By 2030, they want 20 teams, which is only 2 more.
At least it's nice that countries like Papua New Guinea and, I mean, Tonga just toured you guys as well, so I'm assuming there's going to be a team from Tonga or two that might enter, no?
Well, crazy number of the guys in the league are Tongan or Samoan. Yeah.
Already, yeah. So what's going to happen with that? It's going to be the same predicament as New Zealand, where they have to allow the players to actually go. Because, I mean, that was big news a year or two ago, right?
Yeah, well.
That New Zealand actually released some of the Fijian and Samoan players to play for their
They
professional
did.
teams.
They did. Yeah.
Oh, you found it. I told
Oh,
you.
nice.
It was right there, Schnitzel. I told you these things.
Yeah, but and that's why you would have noticed probably in the last maybe decade. Samoa and Tonga not doing as well in Rugby World Cups, are they?
I expected they would do better. Because, I mean, lately we included, some of the teams, was it Samoa had a team in the Super Rugby?
Yeah, so Fiji have a team.
Fiji have a team.
And there's a Pacifica team.
Yeah, that was the popular name, right?
It's Moana Pacifica.
Moana Pacifica,
Right.
yeah.
And it's meant to represent Tonga and Samoa, but New Zealand fucked them over. So the New Zealand, and it's part of the reason why you guys left. New Zealand kind of, because they were the best for a decade, acted like they owned the whole Super Rugby competition. So to let Moana in, they said, well, we'll only let you come in, but you have to play your first 3 years, all your home games have to be played in Auckland.
Oh, that's
Well,
ridiculous.
then you're not representing Samoa and Tonga, are you?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Whereas Fiji plays in Fiji.
I don't think they understand that you need to get the public of these areas, the communities, involved in the sports for it to grow.
Yeah, you're
If you have a Samoan team, let them play in Samoa so their home crowd can watch. I mean,
yeah.
otherwise, what's the point? There's no point.
It's all about money.
It's all about money, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's why you see Fiji is doing better and better, but Samoa and Tonga aren't. And Fiji has way more people, has nearly as many people as, or maybe more as those two countries combined. But you don't see a lot of as many Fijians in the NRL.
What are you laughing at? Sorry, man, I just couldn't help that.
That's great.
What are you laughing at?
So I found a salt from a cardboard.
I put an empty salt in.
No.
What? Give you?
Is it good? holes in the top.
lid. Look at the lid.
No, bro, I put a Suntory lid on the
That's the top of the
I
lid.
put it like this into the.
I tried to close the lid, it didn't go.
I'm not.
What have you done? You've taken this off like.
I
some
don't
fucking-
know.
Some like. What's a Suntory drink? Like those lemon.
I'm assuming.
Like those lemon drinks, and you've gone, yeah, this will happen.
I'm imagining myself. I probably just thought that was the closest thing that was lying about, so I just put it on the salt. I'm sorry, I'm a questionable person.
You're either a genius, or you'd had 10 beers before you did this.
Bro, or both.
Both is
Or
fine.
both.
Both is,
I mean, look at that.
both is acceptable.
I was about to say it's precision, but clearly not.
Both is acceptable though.
Both is
I'll be
acceptable.
totally
I
fine
shall
with
take
that.
it. Here you go.
Well, yeah.
Snooky.
But yeah, I think my final point I'll
Sorry, mate.
the
Yeah.
final point I'll say on it is like, if you look at international rugby union, Samoa and Tonga have dropped off, but Fiji haven't.
Mm.
And then it's almost the flip in the rugby league. Samoa and Tonga have been doing very good, and they beat Australia twice in the last 4 years.
Mm.
Samoa have beaten that's Tonga. Samoa have beaten New Zealand and England recently, and so there's now 5 teams that can actually beat each other in the league.
So now more competitive.
But Fiji are crap. They're not good. They're getting beaten by New Guinea and smaller nations because they're all still playing rugby. But Samoa and Tonga are gone. They're lost. And it's not those nations themselves where you've lost people. It's the majority of their people and heritage, heritage people with Samoan Tongan heritage are in Australia and New Zealand.
Mm.
And there's been a big swing. Even in most of South Auckland, they've been turning away.
Really?
Yeah, because they feel like they got betrayed. A
Yeah.
little bit, But Fiji's not gone that way, because
I wonder if that has something to do with sevens as well, man. Because Fiji's
Yeah, it
always
does.
been really
I
good
think
at
it does.
sevens, yeah. And sevens is that's one thing I was excited about for rugby. And sorry for those of you who don't really watch rugby.
we'll move on.
We'll move on. We'll move on eventually. But I think that's one thing I got excited about when rugby was made an Olympic sport. When was
Yeah,
that? For the first time, it was two Olympics ago, I think, right?
Mate, watching Fiji win a gold medal is amazing.
Exactly. Firstly, that's amazing for a country like Fiji and for a rugby lover to watch that. It's always great. But the second thing is that I finally had hope that, cool, now the States are going to invest in rugby. Because now they can win an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
And they were really good for a few years. They
In
won the
sevens.
World Circus.
They did.
Yeah, circuit, sorry. In the circus. Probably win that too, the politics.
But the biggest shift was when I was a child playing representative. Do you use the same word if you're playing in a local league and you pick like the best players from the league? We call that a representative team, like a rep team.
We do have rep teams. Yeah. It's not a phrase I've heard too commonly.
That's a big thing in Australia.
Yeah.
That's how you get like your contracts with your pro teams and stuff.
Ah, okay.
Is you might play in your local league. They'll pick the best 20 from that league, and you play the 4 other leagues in like an end of year tournament, and then you get a state.
I don't think for us it was like that because we have a very big. You explained to me before where your school rugby scene kind of intertwines with club rugby scene, right? Whereas South Africa, because school rugby is so huge, that we have what countries know as like Craven Week, right? So we start playing pro level at the age of 16. Yeah, so it's not necessarily the leagues; it's like the whole that area. So we have like Brumbies, Rebels, Reds, but 4 school versions
It's
already.
so interesting. It's just the way that rugby is run in South Africa just makes me think of rugby league in Australia.
It's but it's dope, man. It's crazy. I was showing Miku the other day.
Video where I was telling her, yeah, this makes sense why we're the best now. And I think it was Paul Gymnasium against who's the other famous school they play against, man? Oh, South Africans will butcher me for forgetting that. But anyway, that game, there's like 29,000 people at that game, bro.
Yeah.
And these are 16, 17-year-old kids playing that. It's insane.
It probably
It's
doesn't.
insane.
It probably doesn't exist anywhere but America.
South Africa, no?
No,
For rugby.
But I mean,
yeah.
in any type of school sport, I can't imagine.
I don't think so.
I could be wrong. There'll probably be, there could be someone in Europe that's like that's nonsense.
Yeah, maybe for some soccer.
Japanese baseball is like that as well.
Oh, really?
The high
Is
school
that
baseball?
many people?
The high school baseball,
Yeah.
maybe not 29,000, but everyone watches the high school baseball in the summer.
Koshien.
Yeah, Koshien is
Koshien?
Koshien.
There's a league called Koshien.
Yeah,
Koshien.
it's the name of the big stadium.
Yeah, okay.
It's huge. The summer there's like 2. I learned all about it. I lived in Akita, middle of nowhere, very small place. They all love it. glued to all the teachers at the school are glued to the TV. All the students are watching it.
I must say that's one thing I have noticed. Maybe like I haven't seen that really, but I've noticed when we were at your house as well. I saw your dad was watching like high school soccer on TV, and that's one thing I'll say about South Africa that we perhaps did not necessarily have is that there wasn't that I want to say blootstelling in Africa exposure for high school sports. Not all of them were on TV. For a high school sport to be on TV would be quite rare. But here we were watching like random high schools play soccer,
Yeah, I mean,
play baseball, play tennis, play everything.
we don't do it in Australia, I think, because I think people would think it's weird to watch
Other
children.
age people on TV.
Yeah.
Eh? That's a thing back home too,
Yeah.
perhaps.
I mean, I thought it was cool because of how big Caution is here.
Mm.
It's because all the teams are representing the prefectures. It's like representing your province or your state, you know. 'Cause some areas I think had more than one team. I can't remember. But Akita only ever had one team, and then it didn't usually win. And they got to the final in my first year,
Oh, nice.
and it was the
Big news, yeah?
It was insane. It was insane up there. They all loved it because it's like they can feel pride, I guess. And when you've got 47 prefectures like Japan does,
It can be real competitive.
yeah, but also not everywhere has a professional sports team,
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
and that's where I think it's different. Now, if you ever want to have a look at the highlights for Caution, mate, the team loses, and it's the cameras zoom on the kids crying.
Oh no.
they're like
But that's
they're
Japanese.
Like, they're like crying, and it's this whole thing where they pick up some dirt from the ground because it's like the holy stadium, and they put it in like a little bag, and they're like all crying, and the cameras just follow them when they cry.
No way.
No, look it up.
But that is Japan, dude. It's like the whole Japan is such a reaction-based country. Like every news channel you watch, every food channel you watch, every TV channel on their TV
Has a
little person reacting to it on the top. And I can't for the love of me fathom what it is. So I'm not surprised that they're focusing on these kids crying. 'Cause everything's emotion. Even their comedy. Their comedy is very kind of expressive, like body language and stuff as well.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's patach. Why is my Afrikaans better than my English tonight? Usually it's the reverse. But yeah, it's like super expressive.
I've always thought from a Western perspective, it reminds me of American comedy.
Do you? I don't think so. I think here I wanted to say over exaggerated. Like their body over exaggerates everything. Look at most of
That's kind of how I feel about American comedy.
You think so?
I think I'm slagging American comedy off a bit. Well, I think what I'm trying to say is if you're looking at maybe say British humor, which is more dark and it's a little bit more undertoning. I think American stuff can be a little bit more slapstick, a little bit.
I think it is more
obvious.
slapstick. I think it's a bit more obvious, but I think it's well designed in dialogues and timing
Yeah, I agree.
and delivery. Where here, most of the delivery, it's not like you need to read into the situation.
Well, expression
You
as
just
well.
look at the person's body language.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Like who's that good chick, Pompey? The one who did this one? On like America's Got Talent?
Judy on the Toriba.
You should go check that shit.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
hilarious, man. It's hilarious. I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But it's like if all the comedy is like that 24/7, I kind of don't understand. If I'm watching the news and there is fucking a snowstorm or something coming down and there's two people at the top going,
I didn't need the E to realize this is
I
bad.
think the one that gets me even more is that often the person in the corner, their face is not doing anything.
they're probably thinking, where
No.
am I right now?
Like it's just the person. It's just some old guy being like
Yeah,
just nodding.
basically like this.
We get it. That's something I don't really understand. But then I don't know.
Yeah, before we get on to all the things that we like, dislike, and all of that about Japan, I think, it's important to discuss. I think everything,
Get down that rabbit hole yet?
no, not just yet, and I think I speak for the both of us, but you will correct me if I'm wrong, but we do love Japan, that's why we're still here. I mean, for me, it's been 5 years, yours longer than 5 now.
Yeah, 5.5.
It's 5.5, but you were here before and then moved again, yeah?
Yeah. I've spent time here twice.
You spent time here twice, so
Yeah. So I wouldn't
we
have
do love it here, otherwise we would have moved by now.
wouldn't have come back if we didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna be quite critical. I think most of the stuff you see on YouTube and stuff is like it's like a honeymoon phase of what Japan is like. There's 150 videos you can watch about traveling, what you should see, what you can expect, what not to do. But if you've lived here for 5 years, and I think the benefit we both have is we've lived on the countryside and also in the big city. I mean, Tokyo doesn't get quite bigger than that, so you can compare.
I also think there's a lot of information out there now that kind of lets people know the reality, and I think that's important.
Yeah, it is important.
Because
It is important.
You don't want to come. Nowhere is perfect. Nowhere is a utopia.
Nowhere.
So you
Nowhere.
just got to be aware. I think because if you come knowing already some of the challenges you're going to face, it lets you plan.
It does.
'Cause I didn't know.
Yeah, it does.
Little things you don't think about,
Mm.
So I mean, we can get into that later. But
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. It's all the smallest things that you did not expect to catch you. That catch you.
yeah.
For example, I have a really strange pet peeve about how Japan refuses to use space for good like party places or like bars or stuff, like outdoor spaces.
Outdoor space is not used for anything.
It's not a thing here, man.
No.
It's not a thing, and I don't understand it. You will have like 4 buildings in a row with 100 meters in front of them, and then a river, and there's not even just a little balcony with like an umbrella and a table for beers.
Yeah.
Like, how don't you capitalize on that? Firstly, I want to sit and drink there, so that's why I'm annoyed. Secondly, why don't you capitalize on that profitability of that land?
I've asked a few people about it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just don't really know why. Because again, if you grow up with it, you think it's normal, right? Same for me. I just thought everywhere in the world had space everywhere, like Australia does. Okay, I now understand it's not normal for every bar to have a beer garden.
Yeah, I get it. But when it's available, when the space is there.
One thing that, and again, when I talk to people in Tokyo about it, they don't necessarily. Maybe people's opinions aren't as strong here because they used to be around more people. But in Akita, in the countryside, their opinions were a little bit stronger sometimes. And okay, maybe because I'm speaking in Japanese or English, and here I'm speaking in English, so people are not going to give as much of their opinion.
Yeah.
But what people used to say to me is they're like, yeah, but that is public space. And in the public, it's all about not causing trouble for anyone.
For anyone.
So they're not going to do it. People aren't going. They're not going to. Shop's not going to set up a drinking area outside where it might, ruin.
Actually, bother one lady's day who's walking past.
It's like smoking. You can't smoke on the street technically.
Yeah, because you're bothering the people around.
But in Australia, you can smoke on the street, but you can't smoke inside anywhere. You think for a long time here you couldn't smoke on the street, but you could smoke in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me, but it's.
Makes sense in a way.
What someone said to me was, they're like, yeah, but you choose to go in the restaurant.
You can get away from it in the restaurant.
You don't choose to be on the public space on the street.
Yeah, okay.
So it's all about preserving the public space, right? I think that's what the noise thing's about, Like, don't be too loud outside. Do anything you want inside.
I think where that caught me a bit is I had that same understanding. And for anybody that are listening, Tokyo is not real Japan. Like, it really isn't, mate. Like, yeah, you can agree. Like, my Japanese Miku-chan, she's agreeing with us right now. But Tokyo is not really Japan. And what I mean by this is these small little cultural elements that Liam just mentioned there, I fully am aware of, and I understood this very well. And then you come to Tokyo, and there's like a big shift in the mindset and a big shift of the way things should be done. So in the countryside, like he lived in Akita, which is more north, very snowy, cold place. I lived in Okayama, which is more south. It's in between Hiroshima and Kobe.
Yeah.
And the mindset of the people are astronomically different.
It's very different, yeah.
It's like if you're playing a game and you're doing a speed run, that's Tokyo.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're trying to do Bloodborne on speedrun and you get repeatedly angry by every time you die, that's Tokyo. That's like the personality of the people around you. Everyone's fast. They need to get stuff done. They are low-key, I believe, upset about this rat race they're continuously in, getting tired of it. So everybody you see in the train, 90% of them are having a bad day. And if you have a bad day continuously, the environment's fast, it's been 5, 6, 7 years of your life, you're gonna be more of a douchebag. Like, you really are. And you see that often here.
I think it's also symptomatic of most big cities.
I think so.
Yeah.
But here it's like that, plus the kind of cultural differences that make Japan unique and make Japan beautiful. But that combination doesn't work very well.
Well, it's jarring. It's jarring because you wouldn't expect it, right?
You wouldn't expect it.
No, but it turns out that Tokyo is the biggest city in the world.
Yeah.
And it's the same as all the other big cities, and everyone's a little bit miserable, and
Yeah.
they've got somewhere to be. Because in Australia, Sydney's the place that we talk about. Sydney's a shithole. It's not. It's just that it's the biggest city. Everyone's busy. They're kind of having a bad time. London's the same. New York's the same. Americans would know, right? Like,
Yeah.
everyone says that New Yorkers are really angry. It's the same thing.
Makes sense. It is fast.
Yeah.
I get that.
And not everyone is like this, but it's just I think it's just a symptom of being in a big city.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's one thing that then annoys me. by people that move here. I don't have the right to be annoyed about how anybody lives their life, firstly, but it's like people who move to Japan and they only live in Tokyo. And then they leave after 2 or 3 years and they're like, I know everything about Japan. My man, you know nothing about Japan. Like, you really don't.
I mean,
In my opinion. Unless you've traveled the whole of Japan, then I get where you're coming from.
yes,
But then I understand. As long as you've opened your horizons and kind of met people from all walks of life, then you'll get it.
yeah,
But Tokyo is just in general tiring, man. It is.
I
And
get that.
what I mean is, where I don't think it matches well perhaps with their cultural differences, which is the parts that make them beautiful, is in the whole, we don't like confrontation and all of that, which is a beautiful thing to have. But you get repeatedly tired in Tokyo, so you entice somebody to argue with you or get angry
Yeah,
with
it
you.
does happen.
Because you know that the police system and everything is so organized here that guy won't do anything. And that's one of the things, I mean, it's a balance, I guess, right? Because you have that, then you have a super safe country. But in South Africa, that's one thing I miss. South Africa, and one thing, that's our balance. It's dangerous. I mean, I've gone on holiday 4 times in my life, came back, and there was nothing in my house, bro. Starting as a young kid.
Which is wild.
It's mental. I've had a knife against my throat. So yeah, we've sacrificed the safety element. But generally speaking, when you're walking down the streets in South Africa and you're being an idiot, the people around you will let you know you're being an idiot. Because I can just behave how I want. I'm going to be like, oh, you know what? This guy's double my size. He's smoking outside. I'm going to pretend to record him on a video because that's happened to me. Because I know he can't fight me because then the police... Dude, a guy half my size, bro, over here is standing in my face with a video recorder, smoking in the street in Shibuya at 12 p.m. Come on, it's Shibuya. Everything goes at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
Well, at night.
At
you know?
night. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Because there's probably someone 4 meters away doing it.
bro, I'm standing on like 27 cigarette butts.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, this area is fine. But anyway, in South Africa, you do that. That guy will punch you into New Year's, bro. He'll punch you. It's 2025 for you already, bro. It's November, but it's 2025 for you already.
It's done.
It's done.
And I think in a way that makes people somewhat respect everybody around them. I will not...
Yeah, but you've got to be careful, yeah.
You have to be really careful.
Yeah.
I think that's the element. Where I feel like in Japan they don't need to be careful because the police is so strict and everything.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, they have a 99% conviction rate, bro. And like, if you're getting arrested and you go to court, you're done.
So
That's terrifying, though.
it is terrifying. So they use that. So they lure you into a fight because they know you can't fight them. Is there anything more frustrating than that in the world? I do not know, bro. I don't know. If you want to fight with me, let's go. I'm ready for a fight. I might lose. I'm not saying I'm good at fighting. I might lose. You might slap me, but at least I tried. I defended my honor. But don't invite me for a fight and then be like, oh, the police will kick you out of my country.
One of the pluses I will say, though, is, I mean, I don't know what it's like in South Africa. I know that in Australia there's a really big drinking culture.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not, maybe we drink too much, but I do think people drink as much here, if not more.
Yeah, I was surprised.
It's really big. Me too. I was very surprised.
I was
It's a
surprised.
huge part of work culture here. I think people more often drink daily here.
Yeah. Yeah, every day.
I would never drink on a weekday in Australia.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't tell people if I did.
Yeah.
Because, you'd be like, are you okay? Like,
You had a beer on a Tuesday at home alone?
but
Are
here,
you
people
alright?
I work with, they meet me and they're like, oh, Liam, you drink? Yeah, you drink. Because there's a lot of in the countryside, they have this image that foreigners drink, which is, depends where you're from.
Yeah, but I mean, it's something nice
But
at least. Yeah.
And I worked with a lot of older men who they'd be like, yeah, I drink every day.
Mm.
I was like, wow, this is crazy. But what I would say is, in Australia, with a lot less people,
Mm.
a lot more fucking space, there's always fights.
Yeah.
This is the one thing. I don't really understand how there's not so many fights here. And it does make me reflect. It's like, maybe that's our problem, you know?
Mm.
We make excuses for that sort of stuff. I do think people behave better. Now, is that what it's like behind closed doors? I've heard it's different.
Mm.
You know?
How do you mean you heard it's different? Like here
Japan.
people fight, there's a lot of domestic violence
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Japan?
yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah, I've heard it. I've literally heard my neighbours having these fights. Both in Tokyo and in Akita.
Oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Do you remember Jonty? Did you meet Jonty, who played at the crew for a bit?
No.
Australian
Oh,
fellow
yeah,
as
I
well.
did.
He was telling me because he lived here for not even a month. And he was like, yeah, he woke up at 3 a.m. The police was busy like arresting his neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit. So that shit is real here, no?
I think it's real everywhere.
I haven't noticed it.
It's definitely a thing, yeah. I think it's quite a big thing.
You and I need to start fighting Margaret.
People
I'll
just,
beat you up.
people just don't talk about it, you know. But you won't see people fighting in public because again, it's public space.
Yeah.
If you make,
don't bother.
don't make trouble outside. But I do think that trouble inside is kind of allowed. When you think about all these, there's a lot of bars where there's no windows.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anything goes inside.
And everything inside here is allowed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's weird to me. Like even cheating is a big culture here.
Like, I mean, there's that famous Japanese fellow who speaks some good English as well, that has that YouTube channel. I think his videos has like 5 million, where he's like asking girls on the street, is it cheating if your husband visits prostitutes? And all of them are like, no, it's not cheating, because at least I know. Yeah, so there's a lot of like, whatever happens indoors is kind of okay. There's a big cheating culture here. And most of those girls he asked was like, hey, do you cheat or do you know anyone who cheats? Most of them were like, oh yeah, my friends all cheat.
Yeah.
It's really strange, man.
Yeah. I mean, a caveat of that is he's probably asking them in places like Shibuya and Shinjuku. However,
That is
if you did that, if you did that in Australia, even if people were doing it, they would never admit it.
No one would ever admit in South Africa.
No one would ever admit it. I think that's the problem, yeah. Perhaps. That's what makes it so obvious, is because it probably happens back home too. But no one will ever talk about it. Ever. You'll never hear it.
But then you've heard about, and this is not just a Japan thing, but you've heard about like the outside face, the inside face. I feel like that extends into like everything. You know, don't make trouble out there. Be perfect out there. Doesn't matter what happens in here. You know, there's a lot of that.
That's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I feel like you do see it a lot.
I'm okay with that concept, bro. I mean, the way you want to live your life, do it. If you're not bothering the people around you, then I'm cool with that.
It's when you're bothering people, like in kind of a closed off area or away from the public sphere, and it's disconnected from things like the police and all that sort of stuff. That's when it becomes an issue.
Then it becomes an issue. Yeah. And then it also becomes an issue slightly, and this is where it becomes an issue when, I mean, I don't want to play race cards or anything, but I'm sure some races have it way harsher than a white-looking dude. Well,
we definitely have the best deal.
I hope we are white. I don't mean white-looking, we are white.
We definitely have the best deal.
We definitely have the best deal, but even for us, and I mean...
well, that tells you what it must be like for other people.
Exactly, so even worse. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. But it's so shockingly different that what you can do versus what you can't do in a public domain.
Which is what I think made me a bit hypersensitive to Japan, and why I get angry about Tokyo. Is because I'm following every possible Japanese rule I can.
I used to.
And then I see those 3 or 4 Japanese people just being total rejects and just ignoring all the rules.
Yeah.
Then I blow a gasket. Because I know as soon as I just step a little bit out of line,
everyone knows.
It's like, oh, look at this tourist. I'm like, bro, I've lived here for 5 years now. This is my home.
Yeah. That'll never change, unfortunately.
It won't change. And I don't mean to just sit here and rant about it. But I just thought it's an interesting dynamic people should keep into consideration.
Oh, it annoys the shit out of me.
It honestly frustrates me. I'm a people's person. I mean, there's no other reason I would want to do this. I like meeting people. I like chatting to people. It's what I want to do. I want to love everybody. And Tokyo is slowly changing that. It's chipping away at that wall, bro. I've seen... What's the craziest stuff you've seen in...
Here?
Yeah.
I mean, the craziest stuff I saw was... I mean, it depends what you're talking about, right? One of the craziest...
Just generally was crazy.
One of the craziest things I've seen in Japan wasn't here. It was in Akita, actually.
Yeah.
But there was a... And this is the thing that you might come across here. This is like a... It's a Yakuza story.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Wait, listen. No, let's focus on this.
So, this town that I lived in Akita, it's called Daisen, and they have one of the big 3 fireworks festivals in Japan. It's Omagari Hanami. Omagari fireworks, right? And something like 1 million people come to watch it. The town goes from 10,000 people to 1 million. It's insane. But there was a bar, there's not many bars in this town, it's very small. There's a bar we used to go to, and we got to know a lot of the regulars there. And 3 of the guys there were like, well, they're probably not real Yakuza, but they're kind of wannabe ones, you know. And they're trying to run little like rackets around the town, and they're selling things that you shouldn't be selling that are very illegal in Japan.
How do you know?
Very illegal.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because they see a foreigner and they offer it to you. That's 100%.
You're the target market, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Because they just think you'll say yes.
Mm.
I'm like, nah, mate, I like my visa.
Mm. Yeah, I'm okay.
You know, like, let's be friends, but I like my
But
visa.
I want to stay here, please, yeah.
Yeah, like, let's not do that. But,
Huh.
so I had a friend of mine from another town, and this friend of mine, he's very, like, straight edge guy.
Mm.
Didn't go out a lot. And I'd been to this bar a lot, so I knew these guys, they were a bit, like, full on, but I knew that they weren't going to do anything with me because it's more problems for them if, and I've been drinking with them. We got along really well.
Mm.
And we're walking down this street past the bar
Mm.
on the way to the fireworks. This is at 7 p.m. And this street's not got a lot of people on it, right? And there's the bar owner. She's a little Filipino lady.
Mm-hmm.
There's her boyfriend, who's this like giant Japanese guy who's her security guard,
Mm-hmm.
and used to just beat the piss out of anyone. Like I've seen him do it, right? I've seen him just beat people up. And the police don't care because it happened inside. He throws them outside and just says, "He made trouble." They just take them away. He never had a problem. Yeah, but that's not the crazy part. They're all outside on the street, and these three guys that are often there, and they're kind of like gangsters up in Akta.
Mm.
They're there. They've got three girls with them, and they're yelling at these two other guys on the street, absolutely losing their mind. I know I'd never seen this in Japan.
Mm.
But I mean, at home it's normal. There's fights all the time.
Wait, so who's yelling at the gangsters? Are yelling?
Yeah, they're yelling at this
Okay,
guy.
okay.
But I think obviously they've had an argument.
Mm.
They know each other.
Mm.
And then suddenly one of them just like sweet kicks him,
Mm.
and then all three of them are just kicking him in the face on the ground, over and over again. And because I'm from Australia and I've seen fights before, I stay calm. And then I turn around and my friends run 30 meters backwards up the street. He shit himself. And I just pretend like it's not there. I went full Japanese about it. I was just like, it's not happening. I said to the bar owner, I was like, I'll see you later, yeah? And like the security guy was like, Jun-chan, see you later, yeah? And he was like, yeah, come back later.
Don't hurt yourself, bro.
And you just pretend like it didn't happen. But that happens a lot. When there is trouble, everyone just ignores it.
Mm.
Whereas at home, it wouldn't be like that. Everyone would come flooding in. I don't know which is better.
Yeah, maybe that might be better.
In South Africa, that's true. Like, you'll see two guys fighting. Next thing you know, there's 40 people in that fight.
That's not good.
That's not good. It's not good. It escalates. But I must say, the times I've seen that, that's when the fight turns really amateur.
It's like when, hey man, just pulling on the neck. Hey man,
That's one of the
you're
craziest,
awesome.
one of the craziest things I've seen. Not craziest, but one of the crazier things for sure.
That is crazy, bro.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I haven't seen
Because
anything
they were
that
full
crazy.
kicking this guy in the head repeatedly.
Mm. I haven't seen anything that crazy, but
Yeah.
now that I think about it, I made friends with a dude in Okayama. Maybe this is a countryside thing, but I felt like
I did not, for the first time in my life,
It's ironic because we've just been talking about how everyone in the city is angry. And I've just
Akita is Tokyo.
told the story.
Some of my points going to kind of align with your story. Is I feel like in the countryside, the people you're meeting, I don't know, it's maybe the language, the culture, and all of that. I like to imagine I'm quite good at reading people, but you cannot quite get a judgment of who this guy is you're dealing with. And why I tell you this is I had a friend, owned a tobacco shop. That's how I met him, because I was working and my office was like a minute walk from his tobacco shop. And you can smoke inside his tobacco shop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, lunch break, I have an hour. Yeah, I'm going to go smoke where I know I can smoke, right? And I met with him. I'm not going to mention names. And him and I got really close. It got to a point where one day, because everything here is by mail. You can't pay your water or electricity, like, automatically. Well, you can. But back then, I didn't have the means. Like, most of it is you get your mail, you get your bill, you pay it at the Friendly Mart or, well, Family Mart or Friendly or 7-Eleven, whatever that is.
and I didn't pay this. I didn't know.
You forgot.
I forgot.
Oh, you didn't know.
No, like, well, I forgot. I
Yeah,
probably forgot.
yeah.
But then I went to him, and he helped me with everything. Super nice guy. Super nice guy. And I started to notice he had some really good friends at like high-ish places.
Yeah,
for my
yeah.
country city's level of height. Like, he has friends everywhere. And then suddenly I had like this other friend, Romanian friend of mine, who was like warning me, like just randomly out of the blue. He's like, hey, if that guy asks you to sell stuff, say no. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean, bro? And sure you know it, 2-3 weeks later, the guy's like, hey man, you know, I have a little business on the side. You want to get involved? It's like selling illegal stuff.
Right.
So I think it's very prevalent in the countryside places here, isn't it?
It is very prevalent, and because I don't think the police know about it.
I don't think so either, because people here think police is super strict, but I agree. The police force here is strict and they're good, and let's say once more, there's a 99% conviction rate. If you're going to court, most likely you're going to prison. But what people don't realize is the police usually 80% of the time won't stop you unless it's super obvious that you're doing something. So drunk driving, whatever. I'm not saying do it, but what I'm saying is if a police car is driving past you on a highway, there's almost 0% chance that guy's going to stop you.
Yeah.
It's not.
So that's where the dynamic goes, and I think in countryside especially, because they're all friends, they've all been there for an equal amount of time. Yeah,
You've got to really stand out.
yeah, you have to stand up.
Yeah.
There has to be a really suspicious reason.
And that's why when you hear stories about police will stop foreigners and check their foreign, like their Zaire card, foreigner cards.
Yeah.
It is,
stand up.
it is more common that it happens to. So I had a friend in Akita. He's an African American guy, very very dark skinned, and he got stopped quite a lot. But
And then more of the race
But they will
element
often stop people who really stand out. But if you don't stand out, they're not going to stop you.
They're not going to stop
And a
you.
lot of, if you're just a normal Japanese guy in the countryside and you get involved in this sort of stuff, the police aren't going to.
Yeah.
Unless you make a really big mistake, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't be saying it, but I once worked with a teacher.
Don't say it.
It's gonna be fine. No one knows who it is. I once worked with a teacher, and it was my first day in the job. When I walked into this school, fresh off the plane, I walk into the school, and there's all these like posters up on the walls in the hallway, and they're all memes from like 10 years ago. And this was only 5 years ago, and it's all South Park memes that are alluding to like drugs. And I was like, who the fuck is
No one
put this shit?
understands it or something?
Yeah, I was like, who the fuck has put this shit on like a school wall? And so I asked this teacher, and he's like, and he spoke very good English, had lived overseas, and he was like, don't worry, no one understands anything. It's just me. And I was like, fuck.
That's hilarious because like all this racist and swearing and drug related stuff, nobody can understand it, so it's okay.
He grew his own weed.
Oh my goodness.
I had been doing so for years and had never had any trouble. And he swore that if the police ever turned up to his house, they wouldn't even know what it looked like.
I mean, there's a big chance.
Out there, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. It is different.
It is different here, isn't it?
I think it's.
It's so weird, man.
This stuff does exist here. Now it exists more where I'm from.
The thing is that I
But
love.
it does exist.
It does exist. It does exist. And it's just so interesting to me, man. Like I moved here knowing close to nothing about Japan. I knew only the good.
How was that?
It was amazing. Like don't get me wrong, it was amazing. That's part of the reason why I wanted to come here. I'm quite adventurous, and like I didn't want to live in South Africa. I passed my got my law degree and all of that, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna come over. And I had the high impressions of how my dad taught me when he was here, which was long ago. Because he was here doing business and everything, but mostly for karate world champs, because my brother at that time was in the world champs, really good. He came fourth, I think, that tournament. Like, really good. Yeah, he lost against the guy who won. I think it was an Australian fellow, but a really tall, lanky one. But that was 1995, and I'm 28, so that's a year before I was born. Exactly, and my dad had such a good impression. And watching like let's say the movies and reading a bit about them and hearing my dad, it's like all this stuff about honor, discipline, never show emotion, no tattoos, all these kind of stereotypes. But Japan, what I love about it is it's such a beautiful contradiction.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful contradiction. How far ahead they are with something like, let's say, electronics, manufacturing, all of that. They're equally as far behind in many other things. And I think the police also somehow fits that category.
It's similar, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for example, what I'm talking about is like, let's say, I mean, Japan is leading the world in many technological advancements and also manufacturing. But then you get a company that's like one of the biggest healthcare companies on the planet. They have offices in every country. And in Japan, they're still using a fax machine, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I don't even know what a fax machine looks like.
I'd never seen one.
I've never seen one.
I had never.
If there was a fax machine standing in front of me right now, I'd try and plug in a PlayStation controller.
Yeah,
like,
I'm older.
What is this?
I'm older, and I still had never seen a fax machine.
Exactly. So that's like the beautiful contradiction. A beautiful way for me to explain it as well, man. Typically, there was I forget the thing's name now, man. I wrote it down here somewhere. Where was that? What is it called? The Lignosat. Have you heard about that? Snooky. Did you hear about the LignoSat?
Sorry, I was working.
It is a university in Kyoto that made the LignoSat, and it's the first wooden satellite that's ever been sent
Oh, you
into
told me
space.
about it.
Yeah, it was in November. The first wooden satellite.
And they got it. They got it through.
So far it's looking Gucci, but they're testing kind of the durability of wood
Yeah.
in space to see if they can build wooden structures and things in space in the future. And even though how incredible that is the beautiful contradiction that is Japan. I'm so advanced, I can send something into space, but it's an age-old material like wood. It's just like it's an achievement. I agree, but that's how I like to kind of compare what Japan is like or explain.
Well, the department at that university are still probably using fax machines.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
To bring it all the way around. Yeah.
yeah, it is wild. It does make me wonder sometimes if like sometimes in the English-speaking Western countries, I have this opinion where we're a little bit too focused on what comes next.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes I think there is this constant, not all the time, and there's a lot of good points, right? About how am I going to improve myself? How am I going to keep moving forward? But I also do think it's a pretty big symptom of a lot of the other problems that we're facing. I think a lot of it comes from that too, because how many people do you know who they get the job that they want?
Yeah,
they get the house, they get the money. Yeah. Very few, but then they get it, and they're miserable because they're like, but what next?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No one's ever happy with what they've got, and it's an issue here too.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing a long time ago, when I would first come here, and I don't know how true this is, but so there was they'd done a survey where they were comparing American mothers to Japanese mothers, and it was the question was simply they were asking parents what do they want for their child's life, and this is the paradox of America. This is one of the good points and bad points, and a lot of the American parents said they wanted them to be like a sports star or like a doctor or like amazing at something like the top in their field. But in Japan, most people said they just want them to have a stable, normal life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Think about that, how different that is.
Yeah, that's very different.
Yeah, because it's not about standing out here, is it? It's about being...
Yeah, here standing out's a bad thing, man.
Yeah.
You'd know a lot about that, especially teaching, man.
Yeah, but it's about having a comfortable... you want your kids to have a comfortable life.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in the West we focus too much on... We all want to get there, which is not a bad thing, but not everyone can get there. It's true, if you don't aim for the top, you'll never get there as well. There's the paradox.
But I think some of us are way too harsh on ourselves when we you shoot for here and you fall here, and you think, well, I'm a failure.
I think sometimes we're a little too hard on ourselves.
That's very true, man. I definitely think I for one fit into that category.
I've been there.
Yeah, I know, you and I have spoken extensively on subjects like this,
I've been there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a journey we're trying to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's why this is here. That's why commercial break. I'm not sponsored by KWV in South Africa, but KWV, if you're listening and you're looking for someone to sponsor in Japan, go ahead. Peter Steff, you too, my bro. World Rugby player 2 times in a row right now.
More bottles, please.
Hey, more bottles? What?
No, from him.
Yeah, from Peter Steff? Yeah, more bottles,
World
please.
Player of the Year, right?
World Player of the Year 2 times in a row. What a boykie. We are drinking your wine, so if you're watching this somehow, which I highly doubt, but I'm ambitious. Like Liam said, I aim for here, and tomorrow when I'm over here, I'm gonna be depressed, but it's alright. But then, on the crazy stories, man, I like to... Mine is a bit weirder. Yours is quite serious. Mine is I don't know how it is, and I don't know what this says about you, but I've had such a knack for attracting crazy people. You can ask Miku, honestly, it's one of my superpowers. Yeah. And one of the times I realized it was even in South Africa. I lived in Agulhas, which is the southernmost tip of Africa. It's a really local oceanside city.
Cape Town?
Yeah, near Cape Town. So it'll be a 2.5 hour drive more up north to the airport, for example, from Cape Town. And this town, what makes it really cool is there's 100 people who live in this general area. And then over a holiday, it becomes like 24,000 people, like close to 30,000 people. It's a holiday destination. And I'll never forget, I walked into this bar, and there was this bouncer. And I just sat down at the bar. I've hardly been there for 1 minute. And it's this bouncer with long hair. The guy has one singular tooth, bro. He has like one tooth here, long hair like this, white dude, lanky, skinny. Looks like he either just did 5 lines of cat, or this guy sold his car for some tip or something. He walks up to me and is like, "Hey." What? He's like, "Did I tell you that there's a large community, especially in Brazil and Colombia, who think I am Jesus?" Bro, this is how he starts a conversation with me.
You've never met this man before.
First time in my entire lifetime. I'm just a guy who walked into the bar. His job is to just watch the door, open the door, close the door. This guy saw me, said, "You know what? Screw my job. I don't mind getting fired. I'm gonna go talk to this man." Walks up to me, tries to convince me he is Jesus, bro. Or at least people believe he's Jesus. Shows me a picture that obviously says, "Hey, I just Google imaged suitcase full of money." He showed me a picture. It's just a suitcase with money. The background is black. It's like fucking photoshopped and shit. He's like, "Yeah, this is mine. The Vatican actually sends me this stuff." Now, this superpower I've had, this is one small example. Transition to Japan.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Bro, I was in Hachimanyama
I can imagine.
when I first lived here, and I'm standing, I'll never forget, I'm standing by the train station, and trains are coming by, and this old Japanese lady is walking like with her, well, not that old actually, but she was limp as well. So she had like a, crutch?
It's always older people, isn't it?
Bro, but I'm telling you like 50s, like not that old.
Okay.
But, mate, she like walks, stands almost, I'm at this platform, almost only me, Hachimanyama's a small station.
Yeah.
She stops, she stares into the sky, and she just yells, "Okasan!" which means mother in Japanese. Mate, I get onto that train. There's like the train stops 2 or 3 stops later. There's a disabled guy, I'm assuming like mentally challenged, mentally disabled. I don't know what people can say anymore. The whole world's so sensitive.
I think both are fine.
Thank you. It's not for you to decide, Liam. Bro, the train stops, the door opens. This guy's running from cart to cart, going, "Ah!" Not knowing which door to go out of, bro. But they're going outside of the same area. It's the same train, it's the same stop. So this is the kind of weird stuff that I mostly see here.
Yeah,
not quite Yakuza that much.
I don't know if I've anything that's quite on that level.
No, I like your level.
Yeah.
I think the stuff I've experienced at your level, I don't want to talk about in case the authorities are listening, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I do have one other one, but I can't go there. But
We'll wait till I'm famous enough, and I'll bring you back and we can talk about it.
I think the weirdest thing that's weird like that was outside of a supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it was even more weird because a student from the at that time middle school I was working at was literally there. So I'm on my way home, and I've come out of my supermarket, and there's a student there waiting to get picked up, and I've walked out, and they're very excited. They don't see you outside that much. They're like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "Oh, hello, how you doing?" Like, you know, it's cold, isn't it? Because it was snowing. And then this couple get out of their car, right? They park and they get out of their car right in front as I'm about to leave, and this Japanese guy gets out, and he was driving, and he's absolutely blind. He's so drunk, completely red, as people here often get, and he just walks straight up to me. I've never met this man before in my life, and he just taps me on the shoulder and he goes, "Ho ho ho, ho. Big penis, ne?" and then just walks away.
Oh, that's brilliant, man.
And then his wife, who's also out of her mind drunk, just looks at me and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they walked away. And then I have to turn and look at my junior high school student and be like, "All right, see you."
Now, you know the worst. If the high school student goes home and says to her dad, "You have a big penis," you have sexual harassment claims
Yeah, I
in the
know.
morning, bro.
I didn't know what to do. I just was like, "I'm getting out of there."
Oh, that's funny, man. That's funny. That's why Japanese people, I do love you, man. I love the randomness sometimes, bro. Like I was in Okayama once, and I'm sitting there, and there they don't get many white people as well. So I'm sitting in the bar, And I've never, as Afrikaans people are arrogant, I've never sat there and a guy walks in and he's like, hey, can my girlfriend feel your biceps? And I'm sitting with my drink, bro. I've lived in this city for a month. I'm in Japan for a month. And I'm sitting there with my drink. I'm like, yeah, sure. And she comes and she feels my bicep. Obviously, I'm flexing now. Oh, yeah, I want some fat.
Yeah.
Man, I fucking kid you not. With my glass in my hand, she's on this arm feeling it. He's on the other arm feeling the other one, bro. And they're both looking at each other. So my face is here. Their faces are here going, Sugoi!
I think some of it comes from
Oh.
when you're in these kinds of places. It comes from like just preconceptions people have.
It is, but it's cute and beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's never done.
They're so curious.
It's never done in a malicious way.
It's never in a malicious way.
And that's the thing.
That's the thing. And that's where Tokyo changed my mind. Because back home, I would have never thought Japanese people are any somewhat racist. But don't get me wrong, back home I also had a lot of friends who were from the Philippines, and they explained to me, if you're darker skinned, it tends to be more racist. So I'm not denying that. It could be. But in my situation, at least, everybody I've ever met in the countryside was curious about me. They buy me drinks. In Japan,
Yeah.
sorry, in the countryside in Japan. They buy me drinks. They want to ask me stuff. They say, oh, you must have a big dick.
Yeah.
You know, there's stuff like that. I think that's where Tokyo made me a bit tired in that regard. It's not here. Here I feel like everything is malicious in a way. But like you said, most big cities probably are like that. Because here we're all in the rat race. We're all stuck in our own minds.
Malicious or indifferent.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people feel very indifferent.
Mm.
Yeah, and I don't know. I moved here when the country was opening. I moved to Tokyo from the countryside when the country was opening back up.
2 tours, yeah.
Yeah. Were you here before that?
I would say slightly, man. Like at the end of 2022, it was like starting-ish.
No, we came at the same time. I came at the start of 23.
Yeah, so I was here just a bit before you, I think.
All right.
Wait, when
So, I
yeah, I was here 1 year before you. I came March 2022.
I was a year later, March
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
So I do feel like the first 6 months here wasn't too full on. But since all the over-tourism stuff has been on the news here every single day, and it's tailed off I think recently, but it was like a 6-month period where it was just everywhere.
Every bad thing that's ever happened in Japan was all the foreigners.
Yes, I know.
On the news for 6 months.
And I mean,
National bit.
Man, I've seen it. I've been in Shibuya, which is a big party area. I think everyone knows what that is. I've been standing on the street, out the front of a convenience store, and I've had camera crews come up and want to film.
For
us.
the garbage and stuff, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I've
they
heard
film.
about
They
that.
film your face. They film the ground, and they want to ask you like 2 or 3 questions, but they don't actually show the interview. They just show rubbish on the ground and then show us standing around, which is fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
Because, and we've talked about this before, but mate, you walk around those areas.
It's always dirty.
Way more Japanese people than foreigners. It's
Yeah.
always dirty, right? It's always dirty. This is not. It's mostly not tourists. Tourists don't stay out as that late. It's people that live here, and
Yeah, some of them are like foreigners, yeah.
yeah, and then
But a lot of them are Japanese.
I'm not talking about what they're projecting to foreign countries. It's more about what's being projected internally.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, look at all the trash in the streets, people passing out in the street. I've never seen a foreign person pass out on the street.
Yeah, nor have I actually.
Because I can't imagine doing that because I would be paranoid about losing my shit.
Yeah, now that I think about it, usually when you see people sleeping on the street, they usually are Japanese.
I'm not saying that people don't live. I'm sure people do, but like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
But so since that became a thing here, it's been a bit more hostile. No, a bit's a lie. A lot more. Yeah.
But I think it kind of attests to something we spoke about earlier, where one thing we don't necessarily like, not that we have the right to like or dislike, but about the States, is that they have such conflicting opinions about media. Where I think the unique part is in Japan, they're all following one strain of media. So whatever's on the media, everybody generally sees the truth.
Well,
Okay, foreigners did this, yeah.
Media's controlled, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Not completely, but it's a lot more controlled.
No.
Yeah, not something that's spoken about too much. But I guess the one thing I would say, and if you've not gotten back to Okayama since you've moved here,
I want to go back very badly.
I have such good Japanese friends there, like Japanese families who invited me to their houses to live traditionally Japanese, even though I don't speak much Japanese, so it's beautiful.
Let's reset.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I've
man.
gone Nike to both years that I've lived in Tokyo.
Mm.
And I come back from, and I'm like, you know what? After having a week up there, one, I get away from the rat race. Two, I often by the end of the week in the countryside, I remember why I left. Because it's lovely, but I'm also like, okay, I've done everything I wanted to do.
That's what Okayama did for me as well.
Yeah.
I loved it there, but after 2 years, like, there's nothing else to do here.
Yeah.
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 But wait, one day when you're older, you can go back.
I agree.
But speaking of, so, okay, how did the whole... We spoke a lot negatively now. And,
Yeah, you can cut half of that out.
but it doesn't matter. But how did you originally get here? Like, what
Me?
made you move from Australia to Japan? How easy was it? Tell us the gist of it.
I think it was a lot easier. It's definitely easier now. It was still easy when I did it, to be fair. Anyone who's from Australia will know this. Especially if you are my age. I'm born in 1992. There was a TV program. Yeah, I know I'm old. There's a TV program in Australia that it was a morning cartoon show, and they used to show 3 shows from 7 until 8:30 in the morning, one after the other, all 30-minute slots. And it ran from sometime in the 90s until late 2000s, almost 2010ish. I don't know when it ended, but it was around that time. And half of the shows that they showed were Japanese. Now, we didn't know they were Japanese. We didn't know what it was. But, you know, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh! Some weird Sailor Moon was on there.
Yeah, Dragon Ball was my life as a kid, man.
Yeah. But this stuff in Australia, it was on a TV show in the morning that was free to air. And everybody, and I mean everybody, watched this. So you would get to school and you would talk about it.
Yeah.
And that was the first exposure I had. So I think you see a lot of Americans talk about if they were into Japanese stuff when they were a kid, it wasn't cool. Now in Australia, it was from day one. We didn't think it was weird.
Yeah.
Some people did, but it wasn't that weird. We'd all been exposed to it. And it just so happens that at that time, the most common foreign language that was taught in our schools was Japanese. So a lot. I learned Japanese in elementary school, and then again in high school. And so I had an awareness of the country. Both my schools had sister schools in Japan. We had exchange students. So when there was the opportunity for me to do a school trip here, I thought, okay,
Yeah, why
I'm
not?
definitely doing that.
Yeah, why not?
And that carried on. You know, I went to university. I did a vague arts degree. That was, you know, it was like Asian studies, politics, and Japanese. Dropped out after 10 months. 5-year gap. But then when I went back, I did other things. But I'd always wanted. I had 5 or 6 years when I was in school where I put a lot of work into researching how I could get here. And that knowledge never went away. And so it was always there. I looked at things like the JET program. I looked at like the private companies. The JET program's a government-run program where you can come here and teach. It's the best one. They pay you the best. They set you up the best. I knew about the private companies. I knew about archival work, which is again, you know, probably not as good. Basically, the easiest way to get in was through English teaching, but I'd always thought of doing teaching. Wasn't sure if I'd want to do the profession in Australia, so I never pursued a teaching degree in Australia. And yeah, after 5 years of working and avoiding going back to university, I thought, okay, I do want to give Japan a go, but it's almost impossible to get here without a degree.
Yeah.
You need one.
Yeah, you do need one.
You need one. It's for the visa. It's really, really hard for whatever company that sponsors you to get you a visa, unless you marry someone. But like, that's very, that's a totally different thing. And
Very drastic.
I wouldn't want. You shouldn't be doing that. You know, you just get the degree if you can. Unfortunately, if you're in a situation where you can't afford to, but in Australia, the government pays. Up front.
Oh, really?
Up front. They pay up front. I owe them, but there's no interest.
That's nice.
Yeah. So anyway, did that, and studied abroad here while I was at university. Worth doing, because that was the trial run. Lived here for 6 months, and I thought, okay, I can do it. I think if you're unsure, if you've never lived overseas, you know, if you're the kind of person that is adventurous and wants to do it, okay. But I did. I studied here for 6 months at university.
So you had some...
That was my trial run.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, okay, I can do it. And I thought I'd be fine, but that was how I can convince myself that it would be 100% okay. Yeah. And so then eventually I just applied for JET, and I'm sure anyone out there would probably know what that is if they're looking at things about Japan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resources out there about it.
Mm.
It is the best one if you're trying to get here. There are other ways. It's easy to look up what the other ways are, but I think that's always the best option.
Mm.
They do pay quite a lot better.
Mm.
The only thing is you can't choose where you go.
Mm.
That was the thing.
Might be a beautiful thing. Go experience the countryside.
Yeah. Look, I would never have ended up where I ended up if
Yeah.
I didn't end up in Akita, which is it's the second or third most remote prefecture.
Damn.
It's got the quickest declining population.
Mm.
It's got a few other things not going for it. One of the highest suicide rates, but the people were very lovely. The weather is not
because the bad ones take themselves out.
the weather's not particularly good. It does snow a lot, it does rain a lot, but that was an experience for me because I wasn't used to it.
Yeah, that must for Australian especially. It must be completely the opposite.
Completely different. Gives you an awareness of how other people live. You know, like
Yeah.
I would have had no idea. I thought our weather was normal.
Mm.
Okay, no, it's not. You know, 60% of the year being blue sky is apparently weird.
Yeah,
Who'd have thought?
yeah.
You know, I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea.
Then what was like the big? I guess you said you had a trial run, so for you it's a little bit different. And what was like the big surprises for you about Japan?
Well, I think so. The first time I came here was in high school, and you come for like a high school trip. It's kind of like coming as a tourist,
Mm.
and I think you can experience things as a tourist. You can look up a lot of things. You can watch videos, but it is different when you have to live here.
Mm.
Positive things that I liked, and there's still things that I like to this day. It was like the safety stuff.
Mm.
Although I will admit it's not as big of a thing for me. You know, coming from Australia, I'm not a small guy.
Mm.
I never felt that unsafe. I'm a big male.
Mm.
I feel relatively secure back home.
Mm.
That's not a big selling point for me. But I think it's nice that other people don't have to worry as much as well.
Yeah.
Maybe other people are less on guard.
Mm.
Okay, because we're different and we stand out a little bit, it takes a bit longer to break down barriers.
But you can still break them down.
100%
You still
you
have
can.
the opportunity, yeah.
Well, the best, and what I learned in the countryside at least anyway, was that most people are wary, one, because you're different, but they're also wary because they don't know how to communicate with you.
Mm.
So once I was able to speak Japanese, which took, speak it enough that I could communicate and have conversation, it took 2.5 years.
Yeah, you're really good at that, man. You're much better than I am in that regard. You learned it quite quick.
Because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, I really didn't want to have to rely on anyone to. When you first move here, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
If you don't speak the language. I
Yeah.
couldn't go to the doctor without having to ask my boss. Wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
And that was my goal, was to be self-sufficient enough.
Mm.
I've slacked off of late. But I think that's a good goal, right?
Yeah.
To not have to rely on someone to do that stuff for you. And I got to that point. And what I learnt was that if you show that you've put a little bit of work in to learn some of the language, people are going to open up.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
More so than they do back home.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, male or female, people are very friendly.
Mm.
You know, they don't necessarily. They don't. I think in Australia, because it's Australia's a very safe country, but people do have a lot more fears. I think, so it's a little bit harder to connect with people sometimes. You have to kind of prove that you don't have some sort of bad intention. Whereas what I found in Akita was people just assumed I didn't, which is nice because you're not having to prove all the time that you're not some terrible person.
Yeah.
Perhaps that is an issue for Japanese people when they travel abroad.
Mm.
You know, maybe they can be taken advantage of in some places. But coming the other way, it is nice.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing I do like about the place. I think people are willing to give you the benefit of the doubt.
That's very true.
In the
Very well
countryside,
put
in the
down.
countryside at least.
Even in Tokyo, I'll be honest. That's one thing I'll give Tokyo its flowers. Is even here, somewhat you still do have that. Like I would say, 70% of your encounters will still be like that.
Yeah.
You know. So I agree there.
Yeah.
I think for me it was that. Obviously, for me, coming from South Africa, the safety played more of an important role as well. Is that
I tested to its limits. Like I never lock anything. It annoys her.
Oh, I did the same.
I
did the same.
dude, I'm getting to the point where I'm gonna unlock my door and leave my house keys in the door on the outside, bro. Just so people can see, hey,
Yeah.
I'm getting that convenient. Because back home I can't walk around outside. So that's one thing I'll give them credit for. I mean, another thing, the convenience of this place is just, I think, unmatched.
Yeah.
It's unmatched.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want 24 hours, almost anything you want. 24 hours a day. It is unmatched. Like I said, if you have to have the gives and takes, if there's these small cultural elements that annoy us, but life generally is safe, convenient, clean, I can do whatever I want at all times. I can go right now, you and I can go for a 10-kilometer walk if we have to. We can still do the 10,000 steps.
And that'll get me home.
Exactly, there we go. And we'll be Gucci, and it's like what? It's like it's 10 p.m. and we'll still be Gucci.
So where were we?
You know, you asked me if I remember. I have no idea.
You said you would remember. You promised you would remember.
Right.
What the fuck?
I know we were one of the last kind of
Wait, I asked you
one of the more coherent topics we were on. I think we're finally onto the whole.
the whole how did you
How'd
get,
you get
here? You were like ALT.
Yeah.
For everybody who knows, that's
So-
the best option.
Let's go back to that
Okay.
because I mean they're obviously going to know anyway that it's being cut.
Yeah. Well, fuck it.
Okay, just took a break, had to take a leak, had to make some udon. Japanese food is just too good.
But
We'll show the udon to the camera because Miku-chan made it.
it is good.
It is. It looks beautiful too. Can the camera see it? I don't know. I can't tell. That is hot, bro.
But anyway, hey,
It's a
hey,
million degrees. Though.
hey. Yeah, what the hell? Because
I didn't
5
know.
minutes, my ass. That's gonna take like 20 minutes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Love you. Bye bye. All right, so we were on the topic. So we quickly cut, took a break. We're
Yeah.
old. We're new at this. It's late at night. It's a Tuesday. Is it Tuesday today? It is now. Okay. So back on how you got here.
1 second before. Let's do it again.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
I'll try and give the condensed version, but I think I went past this point earlier. But basically, I did my first degree. I did an arts degree, and then one thing I would say to people is, if you're going to do something like that, that's totally fine. Don't listen to what other people tell you. I had always wanted to come here, and that never went away. That's why I ended up here in the end. But I'd been at university for 10 months. I had to move to the city from a country town in Australia. So yeah, you're on your own and all that. But I think really most of my good friends from my hometown. It's a blue collar town. Not many people went to universities. They were all working. Most of them were doing trades, which in Australia is still pretty high paying. You can still have a good life, especially in a country area. So they were getting most of my friends were getting paid. Not necessarily good wages, but they were getting paid. And here I was working at Burger King, Hungry Jack's we call it, 5 days a week for nothing, going to university, and I had absolutely no free time and no money. And after 10 months I thought, screw this, why am I doing this? And then other people started saying to me, yeah, well, I mean, what job are you going to get with that degree? You know, and so I started believing what everyone was telling me. And I think one of the things I did kind of from the age of 18 to 21, 22 is it's good to take advice from people, but I probably let too many different voices.
To be very selective.
I had too many different voices, you know? And the people have good intentions. No one was saying these things with bad intentions.
Yeah.
You're only giving advice from what you think. But I probably should have just stuck with my gut. And I didn't. And I left. I went and I was an apprentice electrician for 6 months.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was, yeah. Because that's what all my friends did, and that's what you did where I was from. I would have come out of that with a very good job. I worked as an apprentice for a German company that in Australia made elevators, made lifts. ThyssenKrupp or Krupp Steel. They actually built the German World War II tanks. And one of the biggest companies in Germany. That would have been a 6-figure job within 4 years. And I never sit there and think, gee, I wish I finished that apprenticeship, because the work wasn't for me. You know, I couldn't drill 200 holes in a wall, and it was mind-numbing, you know. I couldn't get through the apprenticeship. It's not like that once you get signed off, I appreciate, but I just couldn't get through it, so props to people who can. Because it does actually take determination. It's like university. I did odd jobs for a while, worked for some friends, did some call center stuff, did insurance, worked on the welfare helpline for the government, got paid a lot for that. But it was a lot of hard, like a lot of it was mentally taxing work. But the whole time, in the back of my head, I always thought, I'll go back to university. I don't know what I'll do, but I'll get the degree because then I can go to Japan. It was like this little thing in the back of my head. There was like this little dream that never went away.
Little monkey on your shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, and it probably kept me going in a lot of ways. It always gave me this like, what's the word? Motivation. This like hope. It was like, no, you're aiming towards something. It's there. Don't worry. When really I was kind of all over the place, meandering about. But I could always point back at this thing and go, no, remember you're doing that, right?
You're gonna go to Japan.
You're doing that.
Yeah.
You're doing that. You know, in that I was like, oh, I'm going to go backpack Europe and do all these things. And I never got to do that because of money. But at 23, after 5 years, some friends of mine, they were like, look, mate, you've been talking about this for years.
You should do it.
Do it.
Those are good friends.
Yeah.
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 Good friends.
And so I did. I went back to university, did a business degree. Didn't like the business degree, but I finished it. Got it done. Studied abroad for 6 months while I was on that. In Japan.
And that was then Japan, then? Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a trial run here, liked it. And from then on, from the moment I'd lived here for 6 months and gone home already, that was it. It was, how are we going back? And, you know, I'd done, at that point, a decade of research. I knew all the options. And jet was really the only one I decided I was going to do. I thought, if I don't get in jet, you know, I won't go through the other routes. Because I was confident, I was confident I'd get in. I ticked so many of the boxes by that point. I'd been thinking about it for so long. I wasn't worried about the interviews. And I thought, if I don't get in that way, I'll get in some other way, you know? But I did, I got into a jet. And it was a blessing. Because I couldn't pick where I was going.
And that changed your whole life, man.
It did change my life.
Changed your whole life.
I came here on jet when I was 26. I just turned 32. And I had an inkling. An inkling when I came, personally. And I'd said to some friends, I said, you know, the maximum on this jet program is 5 years. I can see myself staying the 5. I didn't tell my parents that. I said 2 years and I'll come back. But after a year, they'd heard nothing but positive things from me. I loved my job. I actually liked teaching, which is the first time I'd liked a job in my life, and I'd done a lot.
Yeah.
And my father said to me, he said, mate, you're going to be there for a while, I think. I said, what makes you say that? He said, you're 26, you've been working since you were 14, because I did a lot of jobs when I was in high school as well, for pocket money and that. So this is the first time you've gotten past 3 months into something and not hated it. I was like, I never thought about that. And he said, I actually think you should be a teacher. So, and that, you know, from that point on, I thought, okay, let's give this a crack. So the reason why I left jet was because I wanted to be a real teacher. I wanted to get away from being an assistant. And that's why I ended up in Tokyo.
I think that's where the benefit comes from, of doing so many different things when you're younger.
Yeah.
I think somehow the whole society, everybody, myself included, has become so time conscious of, I need this goal by 25. By 27, I need to be a millionaire. By 30, I should have a house and a child and be close to retirement type stuff, you know? But if you go through the actual just stage of being present in life and you try so many different things, you can now actually sit there and know that, hey, teaching is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Where I don't think many people have that. I think there's so many people that are stuck in jobs they hate, stuck in things they don't want to do, but they feel like there's no way out, and they feel like, what if I don't love any other jobs? Where you don't have that, because you've done, like you said, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 jobs, you know.
I did so many.
Exactly. So for you, I think that's a benefit. And if anybody young's listening to this, I would highly encourage to experiment. Look, if you're set in your ways on, I want to achieve this, I want to be a doctor, and you've set that since the age of 10, now you're 22 and you're still feeling the same, dozo, props to you, man. You were designed for that, go do it. But if you have an inkling of, I don't know what it is I want to do, go explore, go figure out what is for you.
Yeah.
And Japan is a great option. I think him and I said many bad things, but Japan definitely I would recommend it. It's a place where you can fully grow up. Like I moved there when I was 23 years old. I'm now 28,
Yeah.
and I'm a totally different person than I was. And I think yes, all of us grow up, but I think Japan in a way helps you grow up a little bit faster.
I think so.
It does. Like you need to sink or swim here, basically. So for anybody
who wants to do it, I think a point you were alluding to earlier is you were saying, if it's your first time leaving the country and all of that, Japan might be a tricky place, but I think that tricky and difficult stuff is what you should actually strive after, strive towards. So South Africans, Australians, thank you all for tuning in anyway, but do consider your life, do consider that you might be too hard on yourself. You might think you're not where you want to be or meant to be. Take life at its own pace, and if you're really feeling trapped in your country and have no idea where to go, you can find some really good jobs in Japan. Like you said, Jet Act program actually pays really well, right?
It does, yeah. A lot. I mean, the first year wages are what a lot of people are getting in the Jet's government run.
Yeah.
In the first year, you're getting what guys are getting paid at private companies.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't even need much to get started. Like Liam said, university degree, if you have that and you're somewhat doubting, somewhat on the fence, trying to leave, trying to go to a different place, try things, don't think about it, do it. Like, go to Japan, try it for yourself. You don't need a TEFL, teaching English foreign language. Like, I had it, I got paid like 1,000 yen extra a month because I had that.
Yeah, I don't think you need it in the beginning.
No.
I think if you get here and you want to skill yourself up, sure.
Yeah.
Have a relatively you don't have to have a clear idea, but have some idea of why you'd like to come. I think the biggest thing if you're applying for Jet, I think probably more so than the other companies, because it's government run, it's government money, and it's taxpayer money. They really don't want. They're really trying to vet out people that are going to come for 2 months and leave. One thing that I do believe though is you don't know until you get here whether you're going to
leave or stay.
So I think that's kind of unfair.
Yeah.
But that's one thing to think of for the interview. Sell yourself as I'm going to stick it out for at least a year or two, even if I don't like it, and then it'll go a long way. I don't think you have to hold yourself to that.
Yeah.
Because if you're 3 months in and you're miserable and you're missing home, there's nothing wrong with at that point going. But at least you've tried.
Yeah.
Although I would say to people, if you do get homesick, give it a year.
Yeah. I was just about to disagree with you until you said that. Yeah. I think
Push through.
Yeah, push through. Give it a year. I agree with Liam. I think the 3 months thing, you're gonna feel homesick. You're gonna want to go home. I didn't necessarily. I think I'm a bit more.
I didn't get either.
Yeah, I think for me, I was lucky. My dad always raised me since a young kid to leave my country. So I was always raised. I moved a lot as a kid as well. So I was like, I'm gonna leave. So for me, it wasn't a big deal. But I've heard from many other people that the 3 month thing.
Yeah.
Push over that. After 3 months, it's really tough. Even after 1 year, you're still a little bit in the honeymoon phase, and that's when it then gets more exciting.
I agree.
It gets more exciting for the second year now.
Yeah.
So I would say him and I are approaching the stages where we probably need to decide: are we going to stay here? Are we going to move on? And I'm on the fence. I haven't made a decision yet.
I'm the same.
Yeah, I think he's the same. But
really good words of advice from Liam there. I think do take the chance, do go. It's important to know, like he said, why.
I think I've met many people here, and if you're one of them, I don't mean to criticize, but I don't understand this whole, I love anime, so I went to Japan. I don't understand that. Like, if you knew anything else or you don't know anything, that's still fine. But it's like, I see so many people move here, and they're like, I'm gonna make my hair pink, and I'm gonna, just do Pokemon and Dragon Ball. This is all I'm gonna do. And then they're unhappy after 3 or 4 months. Yeah, it's gonna work out that way because the beauty of Japan is its people, it's the cultural aspects, it's the sumo we briefly spoke about earlier. I don't know if it was on this or privately, but the beautiful cultural things is what makes Japan Japan, and those things don't all revolve around anime, even though that is the hot topic in the media these days. It isn't all that. Life goes beyond that. So if that's your only source of, oh, I want to go to Japan, then I'd recommend visiting first before moving here.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that being your gateway. It was a gateway for me when I was a child, and I watched anime when I was in high school because I studied the language, and I'm sure you'd watch stuff before you come.
Oh,
Dude, Dragon Ball was all I remember from my childhood. That's it.
Yeah.
I ran from school so I could watch Dragon
And
Ball.
that was when I first kind of knew that Japan was a thing, this vague thing on the other side of the world where this show came from. I played video games from here, but I also expanded beyond that. If those were the only reasons I wanted to live here,
You should question it.
yeah, then visiting would be okay.
Exactly. A holiday, 3-month holiday if you can afford it.
I've watched American TV shows and played video games made from there all my life. I don't want to live there.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
not enough of a reason, and you're gonna have a hard time. Find some other things. It's not being interested in those things is great. You'll still enjoy it, but if you come here and think that you're going to be able to move here and make it your entire identity, unfortunately, that's not the case. And it's especially if you're English teaching, and you're in the countryside, it's not feasible. I don't think. I think you find some other reasons why you want to come here. A sense of adventure even is enough.
Yeah.
It can be something as simple as that. The fact that maybe you just want a change. Maybe that's all it is. You want to change, and you can't see anything in your home country or in your own vicinity that is going to let you change your life, and you want to come here. Then maybe that plus a connection to Japanese, like the pop culture and that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's enough.
That's enough.
You need to have something.
One more thing, no? Yeah, I agree. Like the anime way, perhaps it is a good opening, but you need something plus that.
And what's going to push you through
Yeah.
when you're maybe feeling lonely at Christmas or something? A lot of people get that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think a lot of people struggle with that in their first year. The second year was the best. I loved my second year.
My second year was crazy as well.
Yeah.
I really did enjoy it. My third year, I met Miku, so I was really happy
Yeah.
too. But even though I was happy, it was some of the hardest years of my life. Like I've told you earlier, I went through the poverty reigns and stuff. But
there was something about that second year, wasn't there?
Right.
There really was. Even for me, I mean, I was here during COVID, but it's
Me
like
too.
COVID. It wasn't really lockdown here, so I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah, same.
My second year, I went crazy, bro. It was epic.
It was good.
Yeah.
The second year is nice because I didn't get the uncertainty. I've always liked change, but it's still very annoying when you don't. I don't like having to rely on everyone. Relying on people's fine, but I don't want to be too much of a burden on everyone around me. And in my first year, there are times where you feel like that. You have no idea what's going on. You don't know how to do anything. You have to ask everyone to do
Everything is odd.
and it becomes
Yeah.
that that's a big challenge. But it also, the second year rolls around, you know how to do all these things. You know how to do your tax. You know how to pay your bills. You're a lot better at your job. I was terrible. I was a terrible teacher in my first year, but you learn. I was a little bit systematic about it, a little bit autistic about it. I took notes and I kind of improved. I don't take anywhere near as many notes as I used to on that stuff. But the second year was good because I was settled. Yeah, and I think from the third year onwards, it was when it started feeling like, okay, it's home.
yeah, so on it.
The second home,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I don't know what it was like. When did you move out of Oklahoma? Third year?
End of my second year. So I started my third year in Tokyo. So 3, 4, 5 now is Tokyo.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was an interesting shift and dynamic. Tokyo is a very hard place to come if you know nobody. It really
I
is.
agree.
Because Tokyo, the most densely populated area on the planet, but still everybody is so in their own little bubble. It's almost impossible to meet new people if you don't
Yeah.
have a way in,
Yeah, I think
or know where to go.
that's one, like a tale of caution for people.
Yeah.
I think you're going to make perhaps better quality or longer lasting friends in the countryside, especially if you don't have a hobby. If you don't have a hobby that you can connect with people, it's going to be hard. And
depending on what your hobby is, I would put a little bit of research in. If you're hard set on Tokyo, have a look into whether there are communities that exist in English if you don't speak Japanese, because it might not be that easy.
Yeah.
There might be like-minded people, but you might not be able to communicate with them in the beginning. That could make it hard. That's daunting, you know.
If one of those hobbies is rugby, please join Tokyo Crusaders. We're always accepting new applicants.
It's been a godsend for me.
It is a godsend. I mean, that's how I met this guy. I mean, it's a godsend.
Yeah.
Like, it honestly is. You meet so many fascinating people from all walks of life, from everywhere. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's really insane.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was going to kind of segue into that. So it's good that we got there. I'd been in Tokyo for a year, but I'd known about this rugby team for years. There was nothing where I used to live out in the countryside. There's nothing like that. No sports that I could play. There's often community baseball that you can play anywhere in Japan. So if you're American or anyone who's really into baseball, you're set.
Yeah.
There will be community baseball teams, often with some of the older men from the community. That's a great way if you're a baseball player. But if you're not, like ourselves, then yeah, that's one of the good things about moving to the city. And sports like rugby and soccer, you will find English-speaking teams. Yeah, baseball, maybe not so much in the countryside.
So not English speaking, but there are plentiful.
Exactly. And I'm not saying you should just join English-speaking teams, but I know what I'm saying is if you're gonna move straight to Tokyo, worth thinking about. You know,
That's good advice.
Because I think it is hard for people to pick up Japanese in Tokyo. A lot harder.
And it's not just foreign people, for Japanese people as well. I've met many people that move from, let's say, your Akitas or Okayamas to Tokyo for the first time, and I go talk to them in a bar because they're lonely, I'm social. And they're all like, oh, I can't make friends here. I've been here for 1 year. Exactly. It's an aggressive environment. It is. But at the same time, Tokyo is magical, man. It really is. I just implore you to think, just to add some countryside experience. So go try the countryside first, then move to Tokyo. Tokyo will blow your mind. You can do whatever the hell you want. Whatever thing you thought of doing, you can do here. You can do here without any worries. You know, it's an epic. It's epic.
And I think for most people, you'll find that the way to come into Japan probably is teaching. Almost every single foreigner I know here comes through teaching first.
And that is not like teaching the level Liam's doing it. That's just basically your kind of English schools, your, what's the word I'm looking for, man? The eikaiwas, yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So everybody first comes here like that and then sees the opportunities. So I think that's one thing to keep into consideration. There are more opportunities here. If you're not certain if you want to teach, but that's your way to come to Japan, it might be good to sacrifice 1 year to come. I think there's a lot of future opportunities waiting to happen in Japan. At the moment, 11% of the country are between the ages of 0 and 14. Then when you take from 15 to 64, that's 59% of the country. And then 30% of the country is older than 65 years old. So there is a big population issue here. Actually, did you hear about that Koike, the governor of Tokyo, is starting a 4-day work week? In April next year.
They're trying
for government employees to try and spike the birth rate and all of that. I don't know how that's quite going to work. She's trying to reduce the hours. It's still 155 working hours in a month. So I don't know how much overtime you're going to do on your 4 days you're working. But we'll see how it goes. But I digress. But so there's going to be a lot of future opportunities here, and perhaps teaching is the great path to get here first, and then try and kind of figure out what you want to do after that. But back to on what you were saying. Right now with your masters, you told me you were doing as well, kind of like not a dissertation. What's the word?
It is. It's like
a dissertation, yeah?
It's a research dissertation.
And I found your topic interesting. Tell us a bit about your topic, because the schooling dynamic here is fascinating to me. Because everybody I've met, everybody I know so far, and I think my opinion may be false, it may be, but it's like education in Japan from the younger ages, for me, must. From the kids from whenever they join here, like ages of 4 or 5 till about 10 or 11, it's about discipline, it's about being a good person, it's about all of that. But then I think some point at high school, they start to kill any sense of individuality or anything that makes you unique. If you
Yes.
stand out in the crowd, they want to bring that down and torment that.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion, and sadly my only opinion that I have about the schooling here. Yours is interesting. Yours is more related to language. Your
Yeah,
dissertation,
it
yeah.
is.
So
It is.
tell us a bit about that.
I'll touch quickly on that.
Okay, yeah, make a comment on mine first.
On
Yeah,
that final point you made there,
Mm.
I would agree. I currently work at an elementary school. I used to work in a middle school,
Mm.
and the elementary school is definitely. Put it this way: if I had a child here,
Mm.
I would be happy for them to go to elementary school, especially if they're Japanese.
Mm.
I think they do. They instill a lot of discipline. They instill a lot of a feeling of what it is to be Japanese.
Mm.
A lot of the unwritten rules that exist in Japanese society, you're going to learn that in elementary school.
Mm.
Middle school becomes almost militaristic
Mm.
in a way. It's all about it's all about the hours you put in.
Mm.
And that doesn't sound bad. You're teaching them about hard work.
Mm.
Okay, but you've already taught them about hard work in elementary school to a point. But in middle school, it becomes almost crushing.
Yeah.
It's not about hard work. It's about putting in hours, often mindlessly.
Mm.
I taught kids who would study during the day, sure. And was the study in the classes particularly hard? Not really, but it's the after.
Mm.
These kids would they all have to join clubs in public school, in middle school. You all have to be a part of a club.
Yeah, it's a must.
And serious clubs will be 5 or 6 days a week, and from 4 p.m. until 6, 7 p.m.
Mm.
And then a lot of these kids, especially if they're from families that have a bit of money and they want their children to go to good universities, good high schools, they're then studying at a night school from 7:30, 8 o'clock until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it's all preparing them for the work society that I'm sure a lot of people have heard about.
Yeah.
Which is quite grinding here.
Overtime, yeah.
Yeah, my girlfriend lived through it, and she always says now, when she has like a 10-hour, 11-hour day, she's like, oh, this wasn't as bad as middle school and high school. And that's
Really? She says that now?
she did. Because she'd lived overseas and came back. She did night schooling all through, and that would go until 10 p.m. at night, and you've got to get home.
Oh, that's crazy. Man.
And that's, so I think some of the issues aren't necessarily with the school during the day, even though that's not great. It's that it doesn't end for a lot of people. So then for myself, I'm working at an elementary school, and I do think the level of schooling in elementary school here is actually quite high. Maths and science in Japan in general are very, very high.
Very high, yeah.
Yeah, they do. I have. There are kids that I teach English, but I see what they're doing in the classes. They tell me about it, and I see some of the stuff they're doing in 4th and 5th grade. And I think
I can't do that.
I think to myself, was I doing that in elementary school in Australia? I don't think so.
No, I don't think I've ever done that.
No.
I've seen some of their stuff too.
No,
Yeah.
subjects that require a bit more critical thinking and things like that aren't. It's not really pushed here.
Yeah.
It's all about the almighty exam.
Yeah.
Entrance examinations for us.
They have entrance for like middle school too, no?
They do.
They have entrance exams for middle school.
For high level ones, for private ones.
For private ones, but still, bro, that's crazy.
It is.
Like Miku was telling me at work, there was a person that came over. It's like she's quite high up, whatever, lovely lady, and her child was like, there was like a bring your kids to work day,
Correct.
and there's pizza, and like the kids are eating pizza. This girl is like 3 or 4 years old. She's like, excuse me, where's my napkin? They give the napkin. She has her pizza with a knife and fork because she's training to get into a school, bro.
Yeah.
At the age of 4.
Yeah, well, so I work in an elementary school, a private one, obviously. But we have entrance exams for our elementary school.
That's mental, mate.
It is. But a lot of pressure is put on. I mean, I'm working at the school I work at. The children all come from wealthy families. But the pressure on them is phenomenal. It is. But yeah, I think the pressure really ramps up as they get older.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot of issues with the fact that you spend all of middle school and high school studying for one exam to get into the school you want, the university you want. And that's why maths and science and subjects that are a little less subjective are perhaps taught better because a lot of the tests are multiple choice, so it's more rote learning. And subjects like English and that fall away a little bit. It's a lot harder to test for something that's subjective, and so they still often do English testing mostly multiple choice. So kids just learn what vocabulary. They focus on vocabulary. They focus on stuff like reading, and you often find they can't speak. So I'm working in a school that's trying to improve the English ability of our students. Still with an eye on entrance examinations at some point, but we also want them. A lot of our kids have parents that get transferred overseas. A lot of them will live overseas or have lived overseas, so English communication is very important. And one of the things that a lot of people in Japan struggle with is people aren't confident in their English. I've met so many people here who speak English so well, and some part of it is the culture. They're being humble, but also a lot of them feel that it's not good enough. I say to them, well, I can understand what you're saying perfectly fine. They go, no, it's terrible, it's terrible. I have a lot of kids who have anxiety about this already that I teach. They're 6, 7, 8 years old.
Is that because of what they hear at home or something?
No,
Mom and dad doesn't want to speak because their pronunciation's bad. Now I don't want to speak because my pronunciation's bad.
I think
Just when I was 6 or 7 and I learned a new skill, I would just use it. Doesn't matter how bad or good it was.
a lot of Japanese people are perfectionists.
Nah,
Not everybody. But I do think it's a thing here. People want to be they don't want to make mistakes. It's part of the culture. And I thought to myself, okay, what's something that I don't think is taught particularly well that my students struggle with? What's something that is a big anxiety for them?
Oh, this is your dissertation.
Yes, this is that makes them feel afraid to speak up or to continue using English when they get older. And I know a lot of recent research has shown that pronunciation is not that important in the long run, because we can understand people who don't have perfect pronunciation.
Yeah.
And I think the world is going to move away from this idea that you have to sound like a native speaker of a language, because everyone's going to be using English and everyone's going to have accents, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't sound American or something, or British. But my students are really anxious about this. So how can I help them improve their pronunciation? Well, one of the things that they really struggle with specifically is R, the letter R, and L.
It sounded like you struggled for a second.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to enunciate it.
R or L.
R and L.
R,
yeah.
L.
So yeah, I've thought about it too much, and I can't even do it.
Yeah, go ahead. That's interesting. They don't have those sounds in their vocabulary or in their phonics system, whatever you call
Part
it.
of the reason why I'm enunciating is because if I say it like an Australian, it's R L. It's kind of the same.
But you just said LL. What?
Right. Yeah, we don't really enunciate either. But they really struggle with it. They don't have R and L are not distinct in Japanese. In fact, the Japanese R sits in between the two. Like English I, English L. Japanese R is somewhere in the middle. They sound, so both sounds to Japanese people sound the same.
The same, yeah.
They've done a lot of studies, and most of them can't distinguish the two better than pure chance.
Really?
And this is still a thing in people that have studied for years and years and years and years and years. So I thought, okay, what's something I can do within the framework that I already am having to use at school, because unfortunately I can't put extra things in. I have to work within a curriculum. Yeah, well, currently every lesson we have to warm up with songs. They're provided by the textbook company. I've long kind of thought, gee, we could be making better use of the music that we're using. We're just, okay, we're singing songs about the story we're going to do in the textbook. Great. But what if I took some of these songs that had a lot of words in there that showcase the differences in difficult to pronounce consonants like
that's a
R
good
and L.
idea.
And what if I focused on the song so that the kids aren't thinking about the fear of getting the pronunciation wrong?
Because it's just a song.
They're just singing. And maybe they can pick it up without having the anxiety that they have about it,
And the other thing is, if children are under the age of, well, we don't really know the exact age, but it's 11 to 12ish. And I've forgotten, it's something about, I forgot the exact term, but most people can pick up language to an almost native level
When they're younger.
up to a certain age.
Mm.
So when I teach young children, I thought, let's focus on the really young ones and see if we can get them to be less afraid. And I can tell just from the kids I teach.
Mm.
Second grade children in elementary school will have better pronunciation than sixth grade kids.
Mm.
Why is that? It doesn't make sense. The sixth grade kids have better English,
Yeah,
but the second graders can repeat what I say perfectly. It's because somewhere in there, the fear kicks in, and they start questioning and doubting. So, what I'm trying to do is devise a teaching plan where I can make use of these little warm-up activities where we're singing songs, and use them to specifically target words beginning with R and L.
Mm.
Just the beginning. I can expand it later on. See if I can see if it's going to have any effect. See if I do this for 2 months. If there's going to be any improvement in my fourth grade kids, because they're right in that age where they start kind of losing their pronunciation a little bit. At the end of the day, if there's no benefit, then I know, okay, it doesn't work, and I can find something else. If it does work, great, I can expand on it. Well, that's the idea. At the end of the day, it's about improving what I'm trying to do in the classroom.
Yeah.
To get better outcomes for the students.
Yeah.
And if you think you want to be a teacher, that's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's beautiful, bro.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think ultimately many people here are teachers because they don't have many choices, like in occupation.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily passionate. So I don't often see people as passionate as you are about teaching. And it's beautiful to see, man. It's one of the most noble and best professions there are in the world,
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea. I tried it. I'm the entertainer, I was more making sure the kids were having fun in English.
Yeah.
Because one point I'd like to do more research on, or go see more research on, is one thing you alluded to, is that kind of scare factor or intimidation factor somehow kicks in between grade 2 and 6,
It does.
What is that? Is that I firmly believe there must be like a cultural aspect to that. It can't just be perfectionist or whatever. I just feel like language cannot be accurately learned if you're not willing to make a fool of yourself in the attempt of bettering yourself at it. For example, I knew no Japanese. I would just talk to everybody. I never studied Japanese with a textbook in my entire lifetime. I've seen 2 words before ever. So yeah, my reading's pretty shocking. But I can speak Izakaya Japanese.
Yeah, you can.
Because I would go out and I would just try.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how stupid or dumb I sound. I'm like, okay, that one didn't work. Cool. Where here, I don't think they have that. Because, like you said, 90% of the people here can read and write English quite well.
Yeah, they actually can.
Yeah, quite well. Like, all of them can read and write. Yes, they can. But they can't speak, because immediately that thing kicks in their head of, oh, I'm not perfect. Oh, it must be a cultural thing, man. I just wish there's more research. Why is that there? I want Japanese people to know you don't need to be embarrassed.
No, I mean, I've looked into some of it, and some of it's just personal observation. Some of it is about not wanting to stand out.
Yeah.
If you're reading, people can't tell. They can't tell if you make the mistake.
Oh, that's
it. It's once more like we said with the whole inside everything is okay. So even that, like internally, I'm reading. It's in my safe space.
Well, it's not scary if you're doing something internally and you make a mistake because people can't see it.
Yeah.
But if you speak and you make a mistake, then people will notice. And often it's their peers in school that make fun of them. I taught kids that were, usually in middle school this is a thing, it becomes a big thing. But I taught kids who were very high level English speakers in the countryside. They would have one-on-one conversations with me, in the hallway and things like that. I'd be like, oh, your English is really good. Pronunciation is amazing. Why don't you speak up in the classroom? Why don't you sound like that in the classroom? In the classroom, they would put on this very thick accent when they spoke.
Oh, really? They changed their accent in the class?
Oh, yeah. It's a phenomenon. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, because they would get bullied. They would get bullied for sounding too
perfect.
Not too correct, but I think, especially when you're...
you're trying hard and failing. As opposed to not trying hard and failing.
It's a big thing. So you will get people here
they're afraid to stand out, you know. And unfortunately, sometimes it's part of the school system. Sometimes it's a cultural thing, but sometimes they're told not to stand out. You know, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down.
Yeah.
I think we have this a little bit in Australia. We call it tall poppy syndrome, but I've never seen it like it is here. Because in Australia, it's more so that if someone is being a little too arrogant and talking themselves up a bit, we want to kind of bring them back down.
Yeah.
You know, bring them back down to earth. But in Japan, it's like, well, you're disrupting the harmony of the group. Whether you're someone who's falling behind or someone who's getting too far ahead, often that's not always seen as a particularly good thing. I think especially in the public school system. Yeah.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's really fascinating. Like, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, I think all these differences is what makes the world beautiful. But yeah, that's one thing I think they could personally work on a little bit.
I agree.
I think at the end of the day, they're holding themselves back there. It's a smart nation. Everybody here is... The average IQ here must be quite insane. I don't know the exact numbers, but it must be insane.
People are intelligent.
They are intelligent. But, it goes back a little bit to what you said, is that it becomes militaristic in a way, you know? So I'm one for... This is just my personal beliefs. There should be a nice balance between militaristic and living a good, healthy life of having fun outside. Whereas I get the impression that people here at the age of 14, 15, it's not about fun. It's about just study, after school study, before school study. And they all have these lessons structured in. So I guess to elaborate on the point, I agree with you. I would love to raise my kid here, if I do have one in the future, from the ages from 0 to 7, 0 to 10. Yeah. Sure, fantastic, brilliant place. But after that, I like uniqueness. I like people to stand out, to be slightly different, to question things, not in a bad way, not in an extreme way, but be a different person, be you. You have one life. If a teacher says A plus B equals C, ask them why. Like, why is A and B C? But, you know, so yeah. It was fascinating, man. I look forward to hearing if your song and everything works.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Will I revolutionize education in Japan? Somehow I think not, but who knows?
I mean, actually, did you see they're winning a Nobel Prize tomorrow? The 3 Japanese dudes. Nobel Peace Prize. They're atomic bomb survivors. Now that you said, because I'm thinking you could be the next winner, you know?
Well, I'm on my way.
For revolutionizing English, making Japan able to communicate more internationally. But AI might take that over, who knows? But yeah, so 3 atomic bomb survivors, they're protesting against the use of those type of weapons again. Their organization, especially now after Russia and Ukraine and stuff, the stuff that's fired. So yeah, they're winning a Nobel Peace Prize tomorrow.
Nice.
But Liam's next for language, man, and thank you for being here, and thank you to all of you for still listening. If you're still here, but why did I say if you can't hear this if you're not? But anyway, yeah. I think I have a lot of ideas for this. No doubts in my mind that there was a bit rusty. There was some iffy things we can change, improve, work on. But at the end of the day, I'm looking to educate. I'm looking to challenge. I'm looking to hear all things Japan. And just life in general. Trying to find the way that all of us can navigate towards the people who we are trying to be. And yeah, if you're curious about Japan, you want to interview for these schools that Liam was talking about earlier and stuff like that, you need some advice, because he gave a bit of advice that if you're interviewing, you know, tell them, hey, I'm seriously here for the next 2-3 years. So if you need honest advice and stuff like that, please reach out. I mean, I'm just growing. I have time, I promise, to get back to all of you. And yeah, Liam as well. Him and I hang out very, very often. So if I need help, I can ask him too. You can reach out to him as well. I'll post this shit here if he wants it. If he doesn't want it, then it's not there. Then I lied, okay? But for the last segment for this is we're going to play a game. It's like a Russian roulette. So I'm going to quickly show you how we cook. Yeah, I don't know how to do that yet, but yeah. There's a picture here somewhere, video here somewhere, about us cooking takoyaki, which is basically, how would you explain it? Taco fried balls? Taco, octopus fried balls?
Yeah. They're about this big. They're about as big as the, actual balls.
Hey, bro. This is a kids program, dude. Come on.
So, they're little balls of batter with little pieces of octopus inside of them.
You can get them on the street in Osaka. I would recommend you do that if you can. But you can make them yourself.
Which we did.
Yeah.
So they might not be very good. But the catch for this one is that we made 3, and one of them is completely jam-packed filled with wasabi.
And we do not know which one.
No, we don't.
So we shall go 1 for 1 for 1, and hopefully the first one isn't wasabi. So
Wasabi will clean out your nose.
yeah.
Like you have no idea.
The beauty of wasabi though is that it's like it burns the shit out of you, but it's like really gone in like a few seconds. Yeah.
That's true. It's not like kind of chili spice.
Yeah, chili, I'm dead for like a whole day.
No, this is just 10 seconds of pain.
Pure pain. All right, sir, you are the guest. You get to choose. Would you like to go first, or
I'll
am
go
I
first.
going first?
I'll go first.
Ooh, okay. Let's do it there. Drum roll.
Do it there. Drum roll, mate.
Only one of these.
Is that in only one? Choose
Only
your
one.
first pick.
Okay, hang on.
Pick your pick, bro. I have a feeling it's this one.
No. It's got to be. Surely it's not in this little one. Moment of truth.
You're a survivor.
Safe. That is why you go first.
But now if I get it, you're done, bro, and you know it. Skull.
It's in that one, isn't it?
I don't know. Could be. Boom! Unless Miku messed us up entirely, bro.
Here we go, son.
Drum roll, please.
Alright, I'm gonna get all the sauce. Pro tip for the day. If you know that you're gonna eat wasabi takoyaki at the end, don't drink all of your beer halfway through the podcast. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there it goes. Oh. Oh, it keeps going.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, let it in. Let it in. Little taste of Japan. Let it in.
When I first opened my mouth and started chewing, I thought there's not much in here. Lies.
Was there a lot? Nice, Miku. Well done. Let me get you some water, bro. Ah. Get a new glass.
Oh, mate.
Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Who needs rocket fuel, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Now I have 100% record. So I'm gonna try and keep it as long as possible. Watch me get to episode fucking 2.
Alright. While this man cries his eyes out and recovers slightly, is there a last message in your burning state you'd like to give people?
Japan good. Please come. Wasabi bad.
Ego not so Jozu, bro.
No.
Much love, sir. Thank you for being here, man. Hey, we fucking did it, bro.
Nice.
I think that second half was way better, wasn't it?
Wow, because we were able to reflect.
We were able to reflect.